Your Excellency, dear Prime Minister, honored ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the EU-Moldova Investment Forum. This exceptional event today is organized by the European Business Association in the Republic of Moldova with financial support of the European Union in partnership with Ministry of Economy and Digitalization and Investment Agency. Thank you, dear partners, for this tremendous support. And hereby, I would like to also reiterate our esteemed partner sponsors of the today event. This is Maib Park, this is Dorna, Coca-Cola, this is BMW and Premier Energy. Dear partners, thank you so much for supporting the today's event. I would like to launch my today's speech with a very sincere and open gratitude to each of you who joined us today on this exceptional weather, however extremely important for the Republic of Moldova, and we proved that even on such a weather we manage, so Moldova can manage. Dear colleagues, EU integration of the Republic of Moldova is a national project, the most important endeavor of the Republic of Moldova, and as a business community, as EBA, together with other business associations, with our public authorities, we are witnessing that Moldova is advancing towards the EU on a daily basis through a very concrete steps undertaken in this regard. Business can and has a chance today to act as a fueling factor, as a catalyzer of the European Union integration. And today in the morning, you had a very special occasion to listen by yourself about extremely concrete reforms and steps taken in this regard in order to really prove that Moldova can become a trustworthy partner of the European Union in the nearest future. Today's event is structured in two panels, but extremely interesting one. However, before that, we have our honored political leaders that will advise you once again about how important the business community is in this process of integration, what is the input and what is the cooperation with the public authorities. And then you will have the occasion within the two panels, the first one dedicated to funding for growth, in which you will personally hear about the concrete opportunities, about the sources on how you can fund your business in the Republic of Moldova. And the second panel is dedicated to renewables and circular economy, in which we have the great occasion to have the EU Commission representatives, international businesses, but also businesses that already proved that development in Moldova is possible and that already plan the expansion in the Republic of Moldova in the renewable sector. Saying this, I would like to really keep you interested, focused. It will be an exceptional event, but not before welcoming heartfully on this scene our beloved guest, Mr. Dorin Recean, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Moldova. Mr. Recean, please take your seat in front of us. I would like to invite Mr. Dumitru Alaiba, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Economic Development and Digitalization. Dumitru, please take your seat. Mr. George Shahidze, Chief Executive Officer, MAIB, who is actually the host of today's event. Please, Mr. Shahidze. And dear ladies, dear gentlemen, I would like to invite Ms. Donna Gabriela Rapciuga, who is the President of the European Business Association, Director General of Kaufland Moldova. Dear Donna, please take the floor. I would like to welcome Mr. Siegfried Mureșan, Member of European Parliament, Chair of the Delegation to the EU-Moldova Parliamentary Association Committee, who will join us online. And also with a very important and excited speech, we will have Mr. Gert-Jan Koopman, Director General for Neighborhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiation, DG European Commission, who will also provide a very insightful message for the business community in the Republic of Moldova. So let's start. I would like to first give the floor to Mr. George Shahidze, one of the EBA partner, member of the board, but also the host of today's location. Mr. Shahidze, please take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, our distinguished guest, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister, Mr. Ambassador, everyone, dear guests, welcome to Maib Park, and it's an honor for us to be hosting you here today. I think it's clearly one of the best ever events that we can host in our Maib Park, so thanks for being here with us. When we speak about Moldova and its EU prospects, we basically believe that this is one in the lifetime opportunity for the country. And there are so many benefits that the country will be getting after the full transformation into the getting the benefits from European Union. And starting from political stability, and of course if we go to economic, then starting from access to single market, the FDIs, funding availability, knowledge transfer to SMEs or vulnerable agro sectors, or you name it. In this journey, banking sector of Moldova is very strong, well-regulated, well-capitalized, well-funded, which can really play a crucial role in this transformation. There is a penetration which we measure as loan to GDP, which is very low in Moldova, being around 20–22%. Penetration of mortgage loans, which we measure as mortgage loans to GDP, is around 5% in Moldova. And those numbers basically suggest that there is enormous, stable, sustainable growth opportunity for the banking sector, which everyone can benefit of. Finally, when we speak about Maib, we being by far the largest bank in the country, using the digital infrastructure that exists in the country, transforming ourselves into more customer-centric, more agile, more digital institutions, with already 70% of our loans and deposits granted from mobile banking. And this transformation is going on. And recently we were named as the best digital bank in Central and Eastern Europe by EMEA Finance. So thank you again for being with us. I know that this is very important and informative session, which will play its part into the EU-Moldova integration in the future. Thanks again.
Honorable audience, I'd like to mention on this occasion that European Business Association, that I have a huge honor to represent, has a very strong commitment from all of our members in the reform process. We have a very strong board, who is really, by very concrete actions, by very concrete reforms, is heavily involved through the expertise, knowledge, and input in order to boost a quicker reform implementation process. And on this occasion, allow me to invite to the floor Ms. Donna Gabriela Rapciuga, the President of the EBA Board, Director General of Kaufland Moldova. Donna, please.
Bună ziua! Stimați invitați,
distinguished guests, dear colleagues, distinguished investors, it is an honor to speak to you today during the Moldova Business Week event. I would like to express my gratitude for the fact that there's so many of you here, and this shows that you're very much interested in our topics. EU integration is a strategic objective and an opportunity for transformation of our economy. Being the president of EBA and the director of Kaufland Moldova, I would like to underscore that the business in our country is the driving force of economic reforms and also of implementation of various reforms initiated by the government for European integration. It is through investment and innovation that we contribute to building a modern and competitive economy, which is ready to align with the European single market. The EBA is promoting European values for more than 13 years. It cooperates actively with state authorities, the EU delegation, European Parliament and European Commission. We all get actively involved and we support various initiatives that are meant to improve business environment, aiming at European integration. We provide various kinds of solutions, legislative translation included, and we also support various companies and investments. Every year we make clear proposals to tax policy. We have actively contributed to alignment of our legislation to the European norms on personal data protection. We also promote amendments to the Labour Code, Customs Code, and to the environment legislation. Together with the Economic Council under the Prime Minister and with the support of Optim Helvetas, we will improve procedures for business. We will make efficient use of private and public resources. I have only mentioned several areas of the broad range of the activities of our association. This all contributes to the legal framework, which has a significant impact for the whole of the economy. We are the most active association when it comes to alignment of legislation to the rules and regulations related to the renewables and also the alignment of our bidding rules. The investors, you will see more about this today. And now I am addressing the local investors and international investors who haven't invested in Moldova before. Our country is going through changes, transformations, and there are more opportunities than ever. Moldova offers a stable and attractive environment. The economy is advancing on its European path. We have at the basis cooperation between the pro-European government and the associative sector of business, which is professional and proactive. I invite you to consider Moldova an attractive destination for you. Together we shall be able to contribute to a functional, stable and sustainable market economy. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it will be extremely important to mention that probably the Republic of Moldova in this region is one of the most active countries when we speak about public-private dialogue. In the Republic of Moldova, all the business associations have really very active, dynamic and open discussions with public authorities. Moreover, there is a Prime Minister Economic Council, and I would like to greet my colleagues today in the room, on the platform of which very active, very involved discussions take place. So therefore, our dialogue with the European Commission, European Parliament, but also the Parliament and the government of the Republic of Moldova is indeed very close, very technical from times to times, but extremely efficient. On this occasion, I'd like to really express our gratitude on behalf of the EBA to the Prime Minister, who really always expressed his highest level openness and really got into very technical details when needed just to go ahead, because EU integration is #1 priority of the Republic of Moldova. Mr. Dorin Recean, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mariana. First of all, I would like to start by thanking you, European Business Association, but also the hosts for organizing this wonderful event. Earlier this morning, I was saying nine reasons for the investors to come and to take on the opportunities that our economy offers. I just would like to reiterate the openness of the government to discuss any technical details of any improvement into the legislation or into the improvement of the infrastructure. We, having Natalia Bejan here, I think you all know her by now, and she's very, very dedicated. Like I say, she is an investor nanny. So please make sure that whenever you have a problem, you know her number, and she will help and will go through the government to make sure that you are taken care of. Look, now we are having a very important strategic objective ahead of us. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we wouldn't think that would be possible, but we already opened association, negotiations, accession negotiations. Thank you very much, Yanis. And we know that Brussels bureaucracy is, the bureaucracy, but I promise you that by the time Moldova is EU member state, we will have the most friendly business environment, because bureaucracy doesn't necessarily mean that things should be complicated. Through debureaucratization itself, through digitalization of the public services, we can achieve smooth implementation of the acquis communautaire, building resilient institutions, offering qualitative public services to the businesses and to the community. Correspondingly, we're envisaging digitalization not simply, as I said earlier this morning, what we were doing on paper, let's do it now digital. We are doing re-engineering of the business processes within the government and how the government services you. Our approach is that the business community is the most important partner for the government in bringing welfare to the people. And that is the ultimate goal of any governance. Whatever policies we are implementing, whatever strategic objectives we are embarking, we need to produce welfare. And correspondingly, this is in our interest that you produce high value, that you produce high bottom lines, like you call it, and that you feel encouraged to pursue opportunities here in Moldova. Again, please allow me to express once more the gratitude for the effort that current investors are already doing here in Moldova, and I would like to encourage everyone to come to Moldova. And I'll tell you a small story about Moldova and how we should perceive Moldova. The largest wine producer in Central and Eastern Europe is from Moldova, and it's a very good asset on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. The largest software producer in this part of the world is from Moldova and is a very good asset on the New York Stock Exchange. What I mean to say is that Moldova has the talent and the innovation, and we're looking for the long-term capital that can take on these opportunities. Thank you.
So, dear investors, I hope that everyone is already determined that Moldova is the best destination for investment. Mr. Recean, thank you so much for these very important messages. We have already things to share, and we are very proud of them in terms of our achievements in the integration process. And on this occasion, allow me, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, to reiterate once again how important is our cooperation with the EU institutions, with European Parliament, with European Commission, and once again to reiterate how important is the involvement of the EU delegation in the Republic of Moldova under the leadership of His Excellency Mr. Yanis Maizeiks in a plenty of reforms that are taking place in the civil society sector, but also in the private sector. And thank you once again for this extremely important involvement. On this, saying this, allow me, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, to give the floor to Mr. Siegfried Mureșan, Member of European Parliament, Chair of the Delegation to the EU-Moldova Parliamentary Association Committee, who will connect with us online. Mr. Mureșan?
Mr. Mureșan will connect in a second.
Just to make sure if you have been successfully connected. Just a second, please. Mr. Mureșan, please let us know when you are online. I think that we will move to the next speaker, and then Mr. Mureșan will connect because he's also in a trip to European Parliament, so we will have to manage it like this. And I would like to invite Mr. Dumitru Alaiba to the floor, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Economic Development and Digitalization. And dear Dumitru, saying this, thank you so much for all of our very intense cooperation, which we have on a plenty of reforms. Dumitru, if you can please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mariana, and thank you to the European Business Association and all the members for this years-long partnership and cooperation, because it's so reassuring to know that we're working for the same goal, and the goal is to have our country that we want to see developed, strong, with a developed economy, part of the European Union. And this is, as I said, it's really good to know that we think alike and when we are working together for the same goal. And we have many positive examples of how our cooperation through dialogue, through sitting down, is actually leading to a very positive, very good result for everyone. So welcome and thank you for the host for hosting this this beautiful event and in this beautiful venue. Welcome everyone. This morning we already sort of had the introductory speeches, and it would be an insult to repeat the same things all over again. But really, if there is one thing that I would like to convey, is that Moldova is a country that can change very fast. And few of my favorite examples, if 15 years ago our trade was 70% focused on Russia, CIS, only 15 years later our trade is focused on the West, on EU, EFTA countries, UK, US, Canada, and this is a transformation that not too many countries can show in such a short period of time, because 15 years for a country is very short. 5 years ago, Moldova was, let's face it, slipping into authoritarianism, and it's only 5 years later that we are proud to say that we are a candidate country, that we are the next EU member state. And the Moldovans in this room, I would really like to encourage you to dare use such words. We are the next EU member state, and we are going to work very hard to get there as soon as possible. Only 2 years ago, it was unimaginable that Moldova can survive without Russian gas. And it took a lot of effort. It took it took a bit of contribution from each and every one of us, but we could also prove that this is all, that we can change also this sort of structural bottleneck of our economy and of our country. And really the message here is that we are a small, adaptable, very agile country that can move fast, that can embrace change, that can embrace reform, and that can really learn from each crisis and each challenge that we face in order to be more resilient and stronger and much more confident going into the future, into the day of tomorrow. And as we advance on the European path, of course, there are going to be challenges. Of course, there are going to be a lot of hard subjects and a lot of discussions that we will have to overcome, and there will be reforms that will need to be put in place. But again, as I said, there have been challenges in the past, and that we have overcome them together with success. Now, it's not going to be easy, but to the investors, I would like to repeat once again that this change that is happening right now in Moldova is truly deep and transformational, and it's going to be fast. And investing in Moldova doesn't mean only investing in a business. It's investing right now in an idea. It's investing in a country that wants to be firm in its commitment to the European values, to democracy, to freedom, and to be a component part of the free world. And the reforms that we are putting in place, be it start from the very small with cutting bureaucracy and digitalization that are together combined, saving up to 1% of GDP per year to the entrepreneurs, and this is efficiency and productivity, to the very complex ones with the challenge to really turn the tide on industrialization, on attracting investment in spite of the challenges, in spite of the adversity that the region is seeing. Everything is possible because we have done it in the past, because we have gone through hardship before, and we have really been able to show that we can stand up and move ahead and be stronger. And this is what you would invest in. It's a change that you really want to be part of. And unfortunately, I hope I'm not offending anyone, but there are not too many places that can show such an opportunity for investing in being part of a much bigger change than your investment, than your business. And it's also a good place to do business and to make a very successful business and make a very healthy profit, because this is why you have a government as your partner, a government that is really willing to and open to listen, to engage, to study the problem, and to come with a solution that is to work for the interest of the economy and the business. Thank you very much.
Mr. Leiber, thank you very much for these very positive messages. I was given a sign that Mr. Mureșan managed to connect. Mr. Mureșan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to see you all, dear Mariana, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister. Good afternoon to all of you here from Strasbourg, where we have just arrived for a new plenary session of the European Parliament. Let me start by thanking all authorities and everyone involved for the role played in the historic decision of the Republic of Moldova starting EU accession negotiations at the end of June. This is really historic. Now we all know the Republic of Moldova is firmly engaged on the European integration path, and we know that it is not only Moldova's wish, Moldova's desire, but we also know that this is also a firm commitment from the side of the European Union. The day will come when the Republic of Moldova will be a full member of the European Union, a full member of its single market, will enjoy the perspective of prosperity, of growth, of job creation that every other member state of the Union has. And throughout this process, we will see, I believe, a lot of modernization, many reforms in the Republic of Moldova, because this is in fact what EU accession negotiations are about. EU accession negotiations is a process through which the Moldovan economy will be reformed, the Moldovan the Moldovan public entities, public institutions will be reformed, the judiciary will be reformed, the rule of law will be strengthened, and the fight against corruption will continue. All of these are steps which will greatly benefit private investments, both national and foreign private investments. So even before Moldova will finally conclude the EU accession process, I believe the climate will further improve, further develop to make Moldova an even more attractive place for foreign investors. The start of accession negotiations was only possible due to the remarkable efforts made by authorities in the Republic of Moldova and recognized by all institutions of the European Union. We are now seeing the fight against corruption, the fight against money laundering, the reform of the judiciary having started over the course of the past 4 years with the new pro-European government under the leadership of President Maia Sandu and Prime Minister Dorin Grecean at a speed never seen before since Moldova's independence. This progress is seen by the international community, it is recognized, and it is one of the main reasons why the Republic of Moldova now has such a clear European perspective. It is our clear wish to integrate the Republic of Moldova into as many European programs and projects even before it becomes a member state of the Union. And due to the efforts of the government under the coordination, in this case of the Deputy Prime Minister Alaiba, the Republic of Moldova is now part of the European program regarding the single market, which allows for funding to Moldovan enterprises, aligning their standards with the European single market. The Republic of Moldova can benefit from financing for large investment programs, large investment projects in the Republic of Moldova, as it is now part of the Connecting Europe facility, the large European program for strategic infrastructure investments. The Republic of Moldova can benefit there as any other European member state. We will work for further eliminating all trade barriers when it comes to trade between the Republic of Moldova and the European Union, eliminating the small number of still existing quotas. So there is a clear economic path with benefits for the private sector already before fully joining. Let me say two more things. Let me firstly use the example of my home country, Romania, which started accession negotiations exactly 25 years ago, 1999. Between 1999 and now, the average salary in Romania has increased 10 times in nominal terms. After we deduct inflation, that is an increase of 4 times in 25 years. This means that people in Romania now can afford 4 times more than they could afford when we started accession negotiations. The same will happen to the Republic of Moldova. The unemployment was reduced by 50%. And the GDP had a similar evolution as have the salaries. The GDP is now in nominal terms 9 times larger, in real terms almost 4 times larger. Foreign direct investments were 1 billion euros per year when we started accession negotiations, were 9 billion euros per year in the year that we joined the European Union. So now I believe also for you, for private investors, as the perspective of European integration is so clear for the Republic of Moldova and the commitment is so clear from the side of European institutions, I believe that this is the right time to invest, to make use of the opportunities of the countries, because the country will economically develop in a very positive manner even before it joins. We had European elections on the 9th of June. The majority in the European institutions remain pro-European. So the support that we will be, and this is my last word, so the support that we as European institutions will be granting to the Republic of Moldova in the next years will remain equally high. You will see the same level of technical financial support as you've seen before. Needless to say that myself, I was just appointed as the Parliament's chief negotiator for the multi-annual budget of the European Union post-2027. Needless to say that I am committed and I will fight for the Republic of Moldova receiving pre-accession funds as have all other countries received which joined the European Union recently. I believe we are in a very positive process of reforming the country, of making the economy more dynamic. We're also cooperating in the area of security. The Republic of Moldova is today much safer, much more secure than it was 2-3 years ago. One additional reason to make use of the economic opportunities that exist in the country. Thank you all for inviting me today. It's nice to see you, and I hope next time I will be able to join you in a pleasure. I wish you a successful event. Thank you for the invitation.
Mr. Siegfried Mureșan, a very, very strong message, and your comparison with Romania reiterates once again that yes, we can, yes, it is possible, and we have just to strive for that. And thank you tremendously for all your support that you offer us from Brussels, from Strasbourg today. The best of luck, and we are looking forward to seeing you in person in Moldova. Thank you so much. Dear ladies, dear gentlemen, we would like to invite the last but not the least speaker of today, who actually, for the situation that was created, sent us a video message. We speak about Mr. Gert Jan Koopman, Director General for Neighborhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiation, DGNEA, European Commission, who is again a very strong friend of the Republic of Moldova and who is very much supporting business development, economic growth. Mr. Koopman.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to address you today at the Moldova Business Forum, alongside Prime Minister Dorin Recean and Deputy Prime Minister Dumitriu Alaiba. I would like to thank the European Business Association for organizing this event. It's a great opportunity to bring together decision makers, financial partners, Moldovan and European entrepreneurs and investors already active in the Republic of Moldova. The prospect for Moldova to join the European Union and integrate in the single market is a game changer that will impact the Moldovan economy and society as a whole. It's transformative. EU accession is a powerful driver of growth. If we look at the member states from Central and Eastern Europe that joined the EU in 2004, 20 years ago, we see that their economies have flourished over the past 2 decades, with an average GDP growth of around 5% annually. Alignment with and access to the EU single market has brought them a significant economic boost. Today, this opportunity is opening to Moldova. Important steps have already been taken by Moldova to integrate the core principles of the single market by eliminating barriers to the right of establishment for foreign investors and companies, and this will make the country more attractive to international businesses and entrepreneurs. In addition, Moldova has invested efforts in aligning its financial laws with EU standards. The customs code has also been brought in line with EU regulations, bringing Moldova closer to fully integrating in the EU market. Moldova's accession to the Single Euro Payments Area, SEPA, will significantly simplify cross-border transactions and cut costs dramatically once it is approved by the European Payments Council. By making financial transactions faster, cheaper, and more secure, SEPA membership will open new doors for Moldovan enterprises and increase the country's attractiveness to foreign investors. Of course, challenges remain, including the need to cut red tape, digitalize trade procedures, and upgrade transport infrastructures. But I'm confident that these issues are already being addressed by the government. The EU and the EU Commission are committed to accompany Moldova, provide assistance to build a thriving business ecosystem, to enhance the country's business environment, and to help boost Moldova's growth and socio-economic development. In conclusion, let me reiterate that Moldova's path towards EU accession offers an unprecedented opportunity for growth and development. My message to businesses and investors is that Moldova is the place to be and the right place to invest. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Koopman. I would like to also greet today a delegation from the European Commission led by Diana Jablonska, to whom I would like to thank very much for joining us today. on this very special occasion, and also to mention that in the room with us today we also have the Minister of Finance, Minister of Economy, we have Natalia Bejan, who is the Director General of the Investment Agency, and we have also representatives of many other public authorities to whom I personally, on behalf of the European Business Association, we would like to thank for all of our cooperation. Now, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, we would like to wrap up this panel asking our esteemed speakers for a memory picture, and then we will proceed to the next panel, and I will invite Katarina Hansen, Head of Moldova EBRD, to help me with the next panel. Thank you. Dear ladies, dear gentlemen, we are kindly inviting you to get to our first panel of today. After these extremely insightful speeches of the political leadership of the Republic of Moldova, political leadership of the European Union, who I'm sure have convinced you all that we are on the right path through very concrete actions, through very concrete steps and reforms. The first panel, dear ladies and gentlemen, is dedicated to funding for growth. And today we have a great honor to have with us Ms. Katarina Hansen, Head of Moldova EBRD Office, who will moderate this panel. I would like to also thank Mr. Adrian Tănase, CEO of Bucharest Stock Market Exchange, Ms. Ines Roșa, Regional Director for Europe IFC, Ms. Victoria Belouz, Minister of Finance of the Republic of Moldova, and Mr. Vasile Tofan, Senior Partner Investment Committee, Member of Horizon Capital, who have kindly accepted to join us for the first panel today, and whom I kindly invite to join us on the scene. Please. We would like to make sure that all of you have the headphones for the simultaneous interpretation. And I'm extremely honored to hand over the moderation to Ms. Katarina Hansen, Head of the EBRD Office in Moldova. Katarina, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to see so many people here for this event. For Funding for Growth event. My name is Katarina Hansen. I lead EBRD's operation here in Moldova. And it's great to see that there are so many things happening in Moldova these days. We see a lot of homegrown companies that are really doing well, that are investing, that are expanding their businesses. We also see international investors with an increased interest in Moldova, and we see international companies coming in to explore what Moldova can do for them. Now, in FDI, one of the greatest potential is, of course, the upcoming renewables program, and I'm very pleased to see that we have a separate panel on this topic just after this one, so please stay for this one. There are also lots of opportunities in business process outsourcing, IT, agribusiness, and so forth. Now, over the last 2 years, EBRD has deployed 1 billion euros in Moldova, and a lot of money has gone to increased energy efficiency and enhanced connectivity. And of course, these are fundamental issues that need to be solved for businesses to function. More than 100 million has also gone to access to finance for SMEs. And I think 99.6% of all companies in Moldova are SMEs, so this is a really, really important sector, and the SME sector is bustling. Now, we keep seeing new opportunities popping up. For example, we see a lot of interest lately in the hospitality sector. Today, maybe the weather is not so great, but the hospitality sector is really picking up in the country. And we see a lot of movement in the textile and garment industry. And as a tribute to this, we on stage today, we wear Moldovan clothes brands. Now, before we take a step to finance, I would like to start by asking Minister Belus to tell us about the state securities program, why invest in them and how to do it. Minister.
Bună ziua tuturor!
Good afternoon. Thank you for invitation and for the opportunity to speak about the actions conducted by the Ministry of Finance regarding the opportunity to invest in state securities. During this week, this Moldova Business Week, I would like to tell you more about this opportunity. This is a safe investment. The Republic of Moldova has history of issuing state securities, and the most important thing in this regard is that since 1995, when the government of the Republic of Moldova started issuing state securities, every year the government has repurchased these securities 100%. So starting with this year, this opportunity will be offered to individuals as well, because with the support of external partners, the Republic of Moldova has launched a platform that can be used by any individual from the Republic of Moldova who has a bank account and digital signature can buy state securities. This week, we have put up for trade state securities with an interest of 6%. I would like to say that the amount of state securities offered for trade is increasing, and the government of the Republic of Moldova sees businesses as trustworthy partners. As I've said, this opportunity is a safe investment opportunity because, by law, the government should rebuy or repay the debts, and only after that pay for government spending. It has never happened in the Republic of Moldova for an issuance of state securities not to be bought back. So it means that this is a very secure investment. Number two, we do not want to compete with investments in the banking sector. However, we would like to say that this year, as a support measure intended to increase investments in this sector, the interest rate, according to the Moldovan law, is regarded as non-taxable income. Hence, the 6%, if we speak about state securities that are being sold now, but the interest rate depends on maturity. So for individuals, this interest income will be the net income. It's not taxable. So this tax facility hopefully will be persuasive enough to encourage people to invest in state securities. Indeed, most of the state securities are treasury bills with a maturity of up to 1 year, but I would like to inform you that we are already offering state securities with a maturity of up to 10 years. Most of the sales are done via primary dealers, which are banking institutions, but hopefully
And I kindly invite all of you to disseminate this message and to inform as many individuals as possible to invest in state securities this week. And until December, starting with this week until December 25th, any individuals that have registered on the platform can buy state securities. Now we have offered for sale up to 50 million, but we are open for bigger amounts by the end of the year. We will offer for sale state securities in the amount of about 12 million lei. So 12 billion lei. So the offer is made every second week, and any individual or business can invest via banking dealers. Whereas individuals can have two options, via dealers or through the platform. So I invite you to invest in the Republic of Moldova. I invite you to consider this opportunity, because 6% of non-taxable income is an attractive and safe investment, and with 100% of investment payback. There are few investment ideas with 100% guarantee of payback, but state securities offer this possibility. One more important thing, by investing in state securities, we invest in the development of the Republic of Moldova. We invest in the opportunity to make a better economic environment in the Republic of Moldova. So we are helping the state develop and initiate economic projects, and we also invest to get non-taxable legal income that we can manage with one click only. Thank you.
Now, I would like to explore the business environment a bit, and I will start by asking Ines to tell us about how IFC views the current economic and political context for investment in Moldova.
Thank you, Katarina, and delighted to be here with you all today. So, notwithstanding the geopolitical tensions in Europe, I think Moldova is at a unique point in history. In fact, with its EU candidate as a country for EU candidacy. And as also highlighted by the Prime Minister and the Deputy Minister, this really opens up a whole new perspective for investors, not just with the perspective of stronger ties with the EU, but also access to the single market, and also eventually also funds from the EU that will come to support investments. So we at IFC believe there are good opportunities for investments. We're optimistic. We think that the private sector can take significant advantage from industrial production nearshoring, for example, and also eventually also to participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine as a country which is bordering and so can have production facilities here in Moldova. Also worth highlighting is the ongoing public investments in transport, infrastructure and connectivity, which are a big plus for attracting private sector and business at scale. We're looking into opportunities in different sectors, from agribusiness, financial institutions and support to SMEs, which you've highlighted, which are very key, but also in the renewable sector. I know there's a session later on, so that'll be interesting to focus on. As a World Bank group, we're focusing not in just supporting the private sector, but we have also our sister organization, MIGA, which can help offset some of the regional and political risk through the use of risk instruments and guarantees, which can also be quite helpful. And just finally to highlight, I mean, this is, I was here in July where we also met and meeting a number of investors from the private sector, and there was a lot of interest coming through. We met quite a few counterparties, and again, just to highlight this EU accession path is key to catalyze more investments.
Thank you very much, Ines. I will actually ask Vasily to build a bit on what Ines said and let us know about the views of Horizon Capital of the present investment environment in Moldova.
Thank you, Katerina. Delighted to be here. Very brief intro. We are a private equity investor. We manage about $1.6 billion, investing primarily in Ukraine and Moldova. As a Moldovan, I'm very proud about our investments in Moldova. And maybe I'll start by saying a thing that many investors want to hear. We've never lost money in Moldova over 30 years. Always made money in Moldova. We invested in the larger beer factory, made money, largest food processor, made money, largest wine company, made money despite two and a half embargoes. We invested in the largest glass producing company in Moldova, made money, and invested in 3 banks, also made money. So sorry if this sounds very mercantile, money focused, but in the end, like I don't think we have to underestimate investors' interest. They invest for impact, of course, but they also invest for returns. And at least our fund demonstrates over 30 years that we've managed to deliver good returns out of Moldova despite all the geopolitical challenges on the continent. That's one. The second, in terms of what we see attractive at the moment, of course, the key thesis for us is this EU convergence path. It's a very, say, plain vanilla thesis. It has worked in so many countries, in the Baltics, in Czech, in Slovakia, you know, in Croatia, Romania. So in that sense, we believe that our ability to predict what is going to happen over the next 10 years is quite high, given the fact that so many countries went through this. So we are looking for sectors that get exposure to this EU convergence path. At the same time, what are we attracted about as a fund is primarily also exporting industries, because Moldova in the end is a small domestic market, even including Transnistria, it's about 3 million people market. But we believe the big opportunities here are in exporting industries, and I'm happy to bring to life some of those as we progress, you know, both in agriculture, in IT. And very often when I speak to investors, I tell them, don't think of Moldova as a 3 million population market. Think of us as at least 23 million domestic market. And Adrian, please don't take it personal, but the way I sell Moldova to them, I say, we treat Romania as an extension of our domestic market, given the high level of integration between the countries. And Katerina, I'm happy in the next questions maybe to bring to life some of the investments we've made here, but not before to thank Georgi and the maib team. I see some faces here for this beautiful venue, and maybe that's one way to bring to life one of our investments. We are proud investors in maib. This has been a much worse building before we invested. It's beautiful now, you know, and not only did we make decent returns with this investment in maib, I think we also managed to have an impact, and apologies for the shameless promotion, but when we invested, you know, the fastest consumer loan you could get took about a week to get, you understand, and lots of people were forced to go to these microfinance organizations, you know, pay predatory interest and so on. No offense to microfinance here, there's good microfinance too, of course. And now 60% of our consumer loans are delivered in app. Beyond consumer loans, on SMEs, for example, we had a 2 billion lei portfolio on SME financing. Again, maybe the fastest SME loan took a month to get. Now, a very high share of our SME loans are pre-approved. So they are almost like consumer loan-likes, and our SME portfolio has expanded from 2 billion to 7.5 billion end of this year expected, which is a growth rate of 25%. So huge focus, not only return-wise, but also impact-wise, because maib is financing about about 40% of all SMEs in Moldova. So you see, that's a way to have returns, but also impact. And before you judge us for this beautiful venue, and you say that, look, you get into this banker busters mode that, look, these bankers have so much money, they built this beautiful building. I'll tell you that actually our interest rates are some of the lowest in the region, also thanks to the National Bank of Moldova, who's controlling inflation quite well. So actually corporate loans in Moldova now are at the same level as Romania and Poland. Consumer loans at the same level. The state is actually borrowing very good for you, Minister, at a lower rate than the Romanian state. So actually, Moldovan state, imagine, is borrowing money from the banks at a lower rate than Romania, actually at a lower rate than Poland too. So in that sense, I think it's also, you see, a good example of a bank that, yes, delivers returns, but also is lending at very, very attractive terms to the customers.
Thank you very much, Vasily. I would actually like to stay with you for a bit, because considering Moldova's size, as you say, we need to consider our neighboring market as our home market. So, Vasily, since you're based in Kyiv, maybe you tell us a bit about the opportunities for the eventual reconstruction of Ukraine?
Yes, thank you. First of all, of course, we want for that reconstruction to start as soon as possible, you know, which means we want that war to end as soon as possible. And you've seen these big numbers, like the reconstruction estimates are from 500 billion to $1 trillion. And whatever the figure, we understand is going to be a big figure, probably into hundreds of billions. Now, to put the figure in perspective, Moldovan GDP is $17 billion. So you understand, even if we get a small portion of that in reconstruction, even if we're talking single percentage points, this is a game changer for Moldova. And we are already seeing businesses setting themselves up, you know, for the eventual reconstruction, because in building materials, for example, Moldova is very well positioned, you know, especially for the south of Ukraine. But also, I'm throwing these ideas, you know, linking maybe to my previous comment on the capital costs, which are quite low in Moldova now. So imagine somebody would like to play on the reconstruction a big way. And I'm throwing an idea here, and please don't feel pressured kind of to give me any commission for this idea, but capital goods, cranes, bulldozers, all that heavy stuff that is quite capital intensive. You could buy a park of bulldozers in Moldova, lease them to Ukrainian companies, you know, take advantage of a say 9% corporate loan from maib in Moldovan currency and lease it. So I think the amount of opportunities is quite high here. Also, given the fact that, you know, we're quite well culturally integrated, but also logistically integrated. So few people know we have the longest border with Ukraine than any other country, you know, on the western side, longer than Poland. So if you tell this to somebody, they'd be very surprised. How come Moldova's border is longer than Polish? That's the reality. So logistically, we're very well placed here, and I think, you know, sometimes entrepreneurs are, you know, lamenting over lost opportunities. For example, I keep telling myself, man, if I had 35 years old and a little bit of money in the 90s, I would be such a successful businessman. Then I say like, oh, if I had a little bit of money in the 2000 during the internet boom, you know, I would be so successful. So now it is one of those opportunities. Like, I think if you are like young, hungry, you know, and have maybe a little bit of money and good connections to banks who are very customer friendly, there's a huge opportunity ahead of us in terms of Ukrainian reconstruction, I think.
Thank you. I hope we have a lot of 35 years old in the audience today.
Sorry for that, by the way. I'm way above that level, just to be clear, way above that level.
Thank you very much. Let's go to our other neighboring market, Romania. Adrian, thank you for joining us today from Bucharest. And we're very pleased to have you here. Please talk to us about developing the capital market in Moldova, and how can we accelerate access to capital for Moldovan companies, and how can the Bucharest Stock Exchange help us?
Hello, do you hear me? Okay, thank you very much for inviting me into this panel. Yes, it's a very interesting question, and we have a very straightforward answer, yeah? So you have in this European Union path, you have to facilitate the access for the Moldovan companies to the capital, and the capital market should play a role here, yeah? And you have the opportunity to learn from a Romanian example, yeah? Because you didn't put the development of capital market at the top of our strategy, and yes, the Romanian companies are still very poorly capitalized. Yeah? Gheorghe has referred to the financial intermediation value in Moldova, which is roughly 20%. It's the same situation in Romania, 25%, yeah, with the GDP 10 times more or even more, yeah. Because yes, you didn't prioritize, put on the top of our strategy the access to the capital to Romanian companies. Yeah? So, of course, we have a banking system, but the appetite for the banking sector to offer capital to the Moldovan companies, equity to the Moldovan companies, will be low, yeah, because they want to see very well capitalized Moldovan companies and to offer credit loans to them, yeah. And here, the capital market only, a local stock exchange will play a very valuable role to capitalize the Moldovan companies, so to facilitate the credits to go to these companies. Otherwise, your GDP will be produced majority by the foreign companies, by the multinationals, as it is happening in Romania. And but of course, we can learn from the Romanian example and to give access to the Moldovan companies to the capital. And only the stock exchange will solve this. How the Bucharest Stock Exchange might accelerate this trend? Of course, we are very similar from a cultural level. You are in the European Union. You are a market in the European Union, so you can give access to the Moldovan company already to the capital. Yeah, we have already 2 Moldovan companies listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. You can have other more. Yeah. Also, we can have dual listings through some technical links between the central depositories of the stock exchange. So, the Bucharest Stock Exchange community, the Bucharest capital market community might help a lot, yeah, because the Romanian brokerage community is very, very close to the Moldovan companies. They are very well perceived by the local investors community, by the foreign investors community investing in Romania, and this is a very accessible way for the Moldovan companies to have access to the capital already through the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Yeah? But the message is that you have to put in the center of your strategy in this European path taxation the development of the capital market is very important for the development of the Moldovan companies. Yeah? Thank you very much. I want to congratulate the Minister of Finance for the program, yeah, for the government bonds program for the individuals. This is creating the base to develop here. Is very speaking about the capital market, is very important to have a domestic investors community, and this is very important to build this domestic investors community. These government bonds for individuals are very well perceived. Is very well perceived in Romania. You have a similar program called Fidelis. Vasile has already mentioned about it. It was launched in 2020. The Romanian government has already attracted 7 billion euros, and those issues has contributed to the increase of the participation of Romanians to the capital market. In the last 5 years, a number of accounts on the Bucharest Stock Exchange has increased by 5 times. Yeah? And one of the contributors was the issuance of the government bonds for the population. This will have a similar effect, I'm pretty sure, and I want to congratulate you again about this decision. This will put a very strong base to construct this investors community in Moldova. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. With regards to access to finance for private companies in Moldova and for foreign companies coming in, just as a bit of background before I turn over to my fellow panelists, the commercial banks here are very solid partners. They truly understand the market. They have a wide range of products for all certain needs. Of course, every project and every company has their own individual needs. There is no such thing as one size fits all in finance. So please go and speak to the commercial bank. They're very well placed to guide you. Also, IFIs, the international development banks, provide long-term finance for larger investments. And these are often accompanied by technical assistance for whatever needs there may be, and sometimes investment grants. So if you have large investment projects, please go speak to the IFIs. Also, we very often work together with the local commercial banks, so we are very happy to do joint projects. In addition to joint projects, IFIs and commercial banks work together through something called credit lines. That means that the IFIs give credit lines for earmarked purposes to the commercial banks in Moldova. This can be for green projects, for energy efficiency projects, for women in business. And these projects, we lend money to the commercial banks, which in turn lend to their clients. These credit lines are good because they come together with technical assistance for the ultimate beneficiary, usually the SMEs in the country. And they also very often come with grant funds. So these are also good avenues for companies that have a little bit more difficulties with access to finance. In addition to all this, the EU is backing us with guarantee instruments. And this is where I'm getting at with all this background. So the EU guarantees, they play a key role for the IFIs to provide credit lines to the commercial banks. And the de-risking function that these guarantees bring allows the commercial banks to support companies that have a harder time than usual to access finance. This can, for example, be small companies in the regions or companies with a new technology that is not tested yet. Through the guarantees, the commercial banks in turn will have a greater appetite to work with you. And these guarantees may not, because they're structured through the IFIs, they may actually not be on the radar screen of the individual SME, but please understand that they are there to support you. Now, with this, I want to turn to Ines to ask her to talk about what other opportunities can be used, can be facilitated through the EU-backed instruments.
Thank you, Katri. So IFC, very much like the EBRD, works very closely with the European Commission to use instruments that range from guarantees, technical assistance, and grants to support the clients in the region. And just to give you an example, which is very much a reflection of what Katarina was mentioning in terms of how IFIs use guarantees. So IFC has a small loans guarantee program, which is exactly designed to de-risk portfolios of SMEs, so working with Moldovan banks as well, to provide better conditions in terms of access to financing. And this small loans guarantee program is supported by the European Commission's the European Fund for Sustainable Development, the EFSD. And just to illustrate, I mean, we have actually used the small loans guarantee program in Ukraine. So, you know, in a riskier context, for example, 16 million of this program, which has being deployed in risk-sharing facilities with banks like OTP Leasing, OTP Bank, Crédit Agricole, and this is exactly to target the smaller side of the business, and the SMEs. We've also accessed other guarantee schemes under the so-called EFSD Plus, in particular also for Ukraine, under the Ukraine facility and the Better Futures program, an initial allocation of 90 million, and then more recently an allocation of 350 million, which we've signed actually jointly as well with other MDBs that have access. So these are just a couple of examples of how EU guarantee schemes can be successfully used to support businesses in Moldova, but also elsewhere in the region. And the Better Futures program targets, so goes beyond financial institutions, it could be agribusiness, industry, and other sectors. Overall, the IFC has a number of other types of projects, which also together with donor-funded can support the region. Just to mention a couple of ones, for example, support on PPPs, where we can also use blended finance, or support in terms of advisory, technical assistance in preparation for some of these larger investments.
Thank you very much, Ines. Let me again turn to Vasily. Horizon Capital has recently raised a new 350 million private equity fund. And I would like to ask you, which sectors are the most attractive from a private equity perspective?
Thank you, Katarina. So indeed, we are active investors at the moment. In fact, we deployed over the last 12 months more than $100 million in Ukraine, in the war-raged Ukraine, in 5 asset-light IT companies. And we're working on a number of potential transactions here in Moldova. And as a Moldovan, of course, I want to deploy more capital here. It's a smaller market. That's why the preference is for exporting industries. That being said, if I would make a rundown of attractive sectors here, I would name a few. Banking sector, very attractive still, I think, in terms of a growth perspective. As you may have heard, maib is contemplating the listing on a foreign exchange, on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. And if you think in terms of penetration levels, the level of penetration is still very low here. So you have 5%, for example, mortgage penetration as percent of GDP, or around 5% consumer loans penetration as a share of GDP, which is about, you know, a tenth, for example, of the level in Georgia, a country very similar to us. So I think there's still very long way for the banking sector to grow here, because the level of financial intermediation is very, very low. Second, retail, and I think in retail there's plenty of opportunities. You know, so yes, we have some big box retailers here, but for example, some of the formats are completely uncovered. So for example, if an entrepreneur would come to us as Horizon and say, like, look, we want to build the Żabka of Moldova. You know, Żabka being the super successful Polish retailer, you know, or the Mega Image of Moldova, right? Of course, we would be very interested in such a story. We're staying on retail. You know, there's still empty spots, like for example, discount retailing. It's a complete white spot here in Moldova. In Ukraine, we invested in a discount retailer, you know, called Aurora, which is opening 1 store every 18 hours. You understand? So like 1 store every 18 hours. We have already 1,500 stores. So we believe a market like Moldova can easily sustain about 200 discount retail stores. I mean non-food here. I mean non-food, right? So I think retail is an interesting one. So Donna, don't get nervous. Like we're not there yet, you know. So that's the Kaufland CEO here. For example, but as I mentioned, the most attractive sectors we believe are the ones that have exporting potential, because there you're not limited by the size of the domestic market. And in particular, we're looking at IT and agriculture. In IT, there's few people realize that the share of IT exports as percent of GDP in Moldova is higher than both Ukraine and Romania, which are both considered powerhouses in IT. And in fact, the growth rate has been higher, much higher than in both Romania and Ukraine. So just give you the figures, you know, in 2015, Moldova was doing about 100 million in IT exports per year. 9 years later, in 2023, Moldova crossed 1 billion. So it's basically 10 times growth in 9 years. So it's a very impressive figure. And we already have sizable companies here, which are investment targets for us. And in agriculture, I think traditionally we've done very well in the food processing and the wine industry. And maybe to shameless plug here again on Purcari. So Purcari is a company listed on Bucharest Stock Exchange, part of the index. You know, we've done very, very well with that company. For example, the stock appreciated 69% last year, plus 5% dividend yield. It's a 74% total shareholder return this year. Again, we're in the high single digits return to date, plus a dividend. So I think the Moldovan winemaking is very competitive globally. Moldova has a comparable amount of vineyards to Australia or Argentina, you know, or much more than New Zealand, which are powerhouses globally, and I think has a very strong competitive advantage, also given the location, you know, in a region that still has low per capita wine consumption, especially markets like Ukraine, Poland, you know, even Romania, they have relatively low wine consumption per capita compared to even to non-wine countries like Germany or Netherlands. So long way of saying that, you know, we're seeing opportunities here. I really like the branding play by Mr. Recean and Alaiba. They say sometimes, you know, that Moldova is the California of Europe because we have both. We have the Napa Valley and the Silicon Valley, meaning that we have both wine and IT. And I think this is such a powerful branding, you know, and such a desirable piece of branding too, to occupy in people's minds, you know, this spot of, you know, Moldova, the California of Europe. I think this is very exciting, and we're looking primarily at these California type investments here, basically agriculture and IT.
Thank you very much. I'm waiting for the day when they will say that California is the Moldova of the US. Now, one last question before we hopefully have some time for questions. Adrian, please, What are the current projects that the Bucharest Stock Exchange are working on in Moldova, and what to look forward to?
Yes, so in terms of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, the third largest market in the region, yeah, after Austria and after Vienna and Warsaw. Yeah? So in terms of market size, you had the biggest IPO last year, probably you know, Hidroelectrica, the biggest in Europe, the fifth largest worldwide. So you have a very strong primary market. So you have a very strong, the domestic investors community has become very strong, yeah, with the local pension fund, private pension fund, even the individuals community is developing a lot. Yeah. So this is the good news. The bad news is that in terms of liquidity, you are not there. Yeah. So in terms of liquidity, we are below other markets in the region. And you have a structural problem here on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. You have a very simple market, secondary market. Don't have a very efficient secondary market, and that's why we want to sophisticate a little bit the secondary market. Yeah. So you want to introduce new products like derivatives, yeah, and or operations like securities lending and borrowing and so on, because this is creating the liquidity. Yeah. So the liquidity is the substance of any stock exchange, and the liquidity is transforming a stock exchange into an efficient market, where the market value is closer to the fair value of the corresponding securities. Yeah? For that, you have to establish a counterparty. Yeah? So this is the institution we are working on now. The Bucharest Stock Exchange has invested a lot of money into this institution with other stakeholders from the energy market, because the central counterparty will serve also the energy market for the term contracts, and hopefully we'll have it authorized and operationally next year. Yeah? So we are very optimistic about this institution, that this will develop a lot the liquidity on the stock exchange, and will decrease the liquidity risk of our stock exchange, and will do the Bucharest Stock Exchange much more efficient in terms of evaluating the companies listed than before. Yeah? So this is our main project now. Of course, we have a lot of educational programs to increase the participation in the capital market still. Yeah? This is an ongoing process, it's a long-term process. But in the short term, this is to introduce new mechanisms in the market. This is our scope, this is our priority. And with the establishment of a central counterparty, hopefully next year we'll have derivatives instruments traded on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. How Moldova can benefit on this? Of course, as I said, the Bucharest Stock Exchange is very, very accessible for the Moldovan companies. So from this perspective, they will benefit, the Moldovan companies, they will benefit for a much more efficient market for their listings, tentatives. And in the future, they might, the local stock market here, which might be developed, can benefit from our technologies or our mechanism, yes, to be imported into for the Chișinău, for a prospective Chișinău Stock Exchange. Yeah? So there are many ways for the Moldova to benefit from our experience. And as I said, being so tied from cultural perspective, for the Moldovan community to access our experience is very, very easy. And I'm very optimistic that we will have a much more accelerated path to the European Union standards than Romania had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was a very wide variety of topics. But I think we still have some time, Mariana, yes? So if we have some questions from the audience to any of the panelists?
Yes, thank you. Victor Brunsus. Your Excellency, dear Minister, could you please convince me once again to invest in those T-bills at 6%, as you've mentioned, under the circumstances when Vasily has mentioned that the Romanian government is issuing those at 7%. Why am I asking you this? You know, Moldovans, roughly 1 million of us, also have the Romanian citizenship, banking accounts in Romania. Romania is a EU member country, is a NATO member country, so the risk inherent to a country such as Romania is definitely lower. So the government bonds of a country which has an inherently higher risk should definitely bear a higher return. Moreover, in the case of Romania, it has a genuine price discovery. Why? Because Romania is borrowing on the international markets. And by the way, while borrowing on the international markets, it has foreign exchange denominated bonds. It has an overall debt as a percentage of GDP much lower than in Moldova. Moldova, it's, you know better, 63% of GDP, and in Romania it's 52% of GDP. I just looked up the data. So I wonder, why should we, looking purely at risk-adjusted return, buy Moldovan government bonds as opposed to Romanian government bonds? And to easen the answer to this question, I think there is one element missing in the whole discussion, and that's the information asymmetry issue. You've been very vocal trying to promote it. Oh, use the EVMS platform. Great. Lower transaction costs than it used to be. No tax on those returns. Amazing. But still, the risk-adjusted return is not really there. Thank you.
How should I convince you? And I'm happy that Vasilia has presented figures. Well, we propose bonds for 2 years and 6% interest. The colleagues give 7%. And you have to invest for 7 to 10 years. Make your first investment in Moldova. Moldova will become more attractive. You get back your money within 2 years. And you look into the processes that Vasilia talks about, and within 2 years, you can compensate your project. Now you may be losing, but you will win within a few years. This is the first issue of bonds for individuals, and this is just a beginning. We do not want to borrow with high interest rate. We want an environment where there will be very attractive interest rates. And I would like to commend the colleagues from the banking sector. In Moldova, it is extremely easy to get a loan compared to other EU states. So you invest within 2 years, things change for the better. We are simplifying the business process, and we are doing this. The whole of the government takes effort. And you see that we will get the investment in the economy of the Republic of Moldova within the 2 years. You will get double compared to what you have invested.
2 things, just to make sure that this is not lost in translation also, given you used some figures in your question. So Moldova's public debt to GDP is at 35%, while Romania's is about 45%, almost 50%. So we actually have a lower debt to GDP, public debt to GDP. That's very important, so that people are not misled. And the second, if you're using ChatGPT, sometimes it's hallucinating, you know. So, and the second, actually, the interesting thing that few people realize, Moldovan leu has been actually a very stable currency over the years. Actually, over the last 25 years, it almost hasn't devalued or very marginally, and actually appreciated versus the Romanian leu. So I think in foreign exchange terms, I think this 6% still is competitive. I know I'm not simplifying the work of Georgi, you know, who and the bankers here who think we really have very low interest rates, maybe too low, but I think just to be fair here to the Ministry of Finance, I think these two factors are very important.
Thank you very much, both of you, for your answer. We have another question?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you for a very interesting panel. I'm Thomas Helvetek from the Swedish Embassy. And I would like to build on what Mr. Radiantanase said about learning from the Romanian experience, actually making a priority on the capital market and stock exchange. And of course, we can piggyback on the fact that Bucharest is close and Moldovan companies can invest there. But it would be interesting to hear about, especially I think from the Minister of Finance, what are the government's plan for the near future in terms of how to boost the capital market in Moldova, and what can we do actually to strengthen the local stock exchange in Moldova? Thank you.
The best solution to develop the capital market in the Republic of Moldova is to provide to the Romanian stock exchange the possibility to expand to the Republic of Moldova. They have a well-structured working process, they have serious partners and investors, so the quickest and the best way would be to create a proper legal framework and implementation conditions in the Republic of Moldova so that the Bucharest Stock Exchange can expand its business and use its experience and bring new investments to the Republic of Moldova, and to provide support to the Moldovan companies to get listed on the stock exchange, and to offer the possibilities of companies that is already cooperating with the Bucharest Stock Exchange to consider the opportunity to invest in the Republic of Moldova.
So yeah, the local regulation should be aligned, and the EU regulation is very simple. It's about a political willingness, and as soon as this alignment will happen, we are very open to collaborate with the local partners and to collaborate with our expertise and collaborate with our technologies to construct a stock exchange here. It's a very simple path, but it's about only political willingness for the regulatory alignment to facilitate this collaboration.
Thank you very much. Further questions?
Any other questions? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for a very nice presentation, very helpful. I'm Olga Tarkanova. I work as a lawyer at legal consulting firm here. And a part of our international clients are potential investors. So my question is rather practical, probably to Ms. Katerina. Is there, maybe it's a naive question, maybe this resource already exists, but is there a comprehensive guide where we can learn on ongoing EBRD projects or potential projects where the investors can invest, actually? Thank you.
With regards to ongoing projects, yes, all that information is on EBRD's website, and I'm sure IFC has exactly the same, because that's the way IFIs work. With regards to upcoming projects, if these are government projects, if these are sovereign projects, yes, they will be announced 60 days, at least 60 days prior to approval. So private sector has a chance to see which projects are upcoming, where there will be tenders coming, and so forth. If these are private sector projects, we cannot announce it until they are signed, because of normal confidentiality issues with the private sector clients. But I would actually really like to say that if you're interested in working with any of the IFIs, the best thing is just to come to talk to us. You don't need to have a project to come to talk to us. You can come and talk to us just to explore how we work, what we can do. We may have advisory services which you can use. Maybe you don't even need the finance. There are lots of different programs that can be accessed. So I would just encourage all of you and everyone you talk to, please encourage your friends and your connections to come talk to IFC, to EBRD, to EIB and all the other development banks. Plus, please consult your local banks because there are so many good programs and so many resources to help business development in Moldova.
Esteemed audience, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, I would like to invite you to express our gratitude with a round of applause for this extremely informative panel. And Katarina, we have to disclose something to this absolutely remarkable audience. Actually, today we have tried to bring a little bit of Moldova in terms of taste, in terms of course, first of all, information, remarkable speakers, but also in terms of kitchen, like in terms of gastronomy. But also, we have decided with Katarina to dress actually into the Moldovan producers' garments today. Just all of us, and we have Donna and myself and Katarina and Ines and Victoria Beluz, just to show you, dear investors, dear audience, that Moldova is really wide in terms of production, in terms of investments. Okay, no problem. We can also disclose this. And we will share this information in private. But it was an important message to share with you that Moldova is really with open arms, absolutely open and happy to host you here because we are a country of decent and trustworthy investments. For this very occasion, I would like to, first of all, express gratitude for our speakers and to remember the Republic of Moldova. We will share with you and some gifts. We will give you some memories about Moldova. And once again, to thank Ms. Katarina Hansen, head of Moldova EBRD, moderator of today's panel, Mr. Adrian Tănase, CEO of Bucharest Stock Market Exchange, Ms. Ines Roșa, Regional Director for Europe, IFC, Ms. Victoria Beluz, Minister of Finance of the Republic of Moldova. Thank you very much, Ms. Minister. Mr. Vasile Tofan, Senior Partner, Investment Committee, Member, Horizon Capital. Dear speakers, thank you so much for your insightful messages, and I would like to have a memory picture with all of you here. And then we will kindly invite you to have a 15 minutes break and then to come back. Thank you so much. We are looking forward to seeing you at the next panel for renewables and circular economy. Stimate doamne, stimați domni, vă invităm călduros să lansăm cel de-al doilea.
We kindly invite you to continue with the second discussion panel of today's event.
Honorable audience, dear ladies, dear gentlemen, we would like to kindly invite you to the second part of our today's event, actually two panels, but extremely well focused. The second panel is dedicated to renewables and sustainable economy. Why? Because the Republic of Moldova has recently been embarked into an extremely active process related to legislation harmonization in the context of EU-Moldovan integration process. As we have told you in the first part of the event, that a lot of reforms have been launched and are on the way. The renewable sector is one of that reform. And on this occasion, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the European Union, who has very much supported the Republic of Moldova in this regard. But also we had and we have an extremely active dialogue with Minister of Energy. And we have here today Mr. Parlikov, Victor, who is extremely involved and active in this process. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite our distinguished speakers to the panel. Mr. Alexandru Sandulescu, EU High-Level Advisor on Energy. Mr. Sandulescu, please take the floor. Ms. Iolanta Garcia Mesquita, DG Energy, European Commission, who will connect with us online today. Mr. Victor Parlikov, Minister of Energy of the Republic of Moldova. Mr. Parlikov, please take the seat on the scene. Mr. Peter Stor, Premier Energy Romania. Please take your seat. Mr. Charles Lermit, Quer International. Thank you very much for joining us today. Mr. Georgi Mavraganis, Strategic Planning and Sustainability Director, Copper Segment, Halcor Company, member of the VO Halco, Hellenic Cable Group. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Mr. Fabio Parola, Policy Advisor, International and European Affairs, A2A Company. I will also have a distinguished pleasure to co-moderate this event with Mr. Sandulescu. However, I have an exceptional honor to give you the floor, Mr. Sandulescu, to launch the panel.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to this, I hope, very interesting panel regarding promotion of renewable energy sources. First of all, let me thank you to European Business Association for the possibility to openly discuss this very important topic for the future of Republic of Moldova. We are a lot of people in the panel, so I'll propose to start. As organizational aspects, what I propose to you is each of us to present a little bit his point of view, his opinion about where we are standing and what should be done in the future in this very interesting area. And after that, to have an interactive session of questions and answers, questions not only from the audience to the panel, but also among the panelists. So, having the floor, I will start saying a few words, trying to set the scene. What I wanted to highlight, first of all, is that the Republic of Moldova was hit by a succession of energy crises since October 2021. Both in electricity and in gas, and Moldova successfully coped with this crisis, mainly due to the fact that there were enough, let's say, okay, we cannot say we have enough interconnections, but there were enough interconnections in order to cope with such kind of crisis. So to get rid of formerly Eastern suppliers and replace them with Western suppliers in gas mainly. And also the development of competitive market rules. So the market was enough mature, both in gas and electricity, in order to be able to buy electricity from other suppliers than the traditional ones. In short, the crisis had two dimensions. One is availability of imported gas and electricity, because Republic of Moldova is importing 81% of the needed energy. These are data from 2022, according to National Bureau of Statistics. And the other one is affordability, or affordability of electricity and gas, because during the crisis we had very high spikes in prices, and here I should mention this Energy Vulnerability Fund, which was a very nice solution developed by Republic of Moldova. I think here Republic of Moldova can share its experience with other countries, because you see best practices, but not only in EU and should be imported here, but sometimes are developed here and could be imported in member states, and this is, I think, one of the cases. Speaking about this Energy Vulnerability Fund, in which vulnerable energy consumers benefited from direct support on their bills, but this direct support was tailored based on 7 vulnerability classes. So most vulnerable consumers receive more help than people which can afford to pay higher bills in energy. So it's a very nice system. As lesson learned from this crisis, and let's say elements for further development in energy sector of Republic of Moldova, I think there were 3. One is promotion of energy efficiency, so to reduce and to efficientize the energy consumption as much as possible through energy efficiency projects. And here very important steps have been made, starting with development of CNED, of the National Center for Sustainable Energy. This is actually not exactly a new entity. It was built on the Energy Efficiency Agency, which also incorporated the Energy Efficiency Fund. So since 2012, in energy efficiency there is a long history. But now this history is developed and will target other areas which were not targeted in the past, such as energy efficiency in residential area. Because energy consumption in Republic of Moldova, half of the energy consumption in Republic of Moldova is in buildings. So it's very important to target not only public buildings like in the past, but also residential buildings. Another area is the area in which we are discussing today, promotion of renewable energy sources. And I will come back to this element. The third one is energy interconnections, because as I mentioned previously, we do not have enough interconnections. We never have enough interconnections. So there is room for new interconnections, both in gas and electricity. In gas, this means also increasing the capacity of existing interconnections as much as possible. What else? Coming back to renewables. Okay, Moldova uses several systems for promotion of renewable energy sources, starting with net billing system now for very small investments. Then we have the feed-in tariffs for, let's say, larger investments, up to 1 megawatt in solar and other sources, and up to 4 megawatts in wind. And after that, there is a tendering system, and I'm sure Minister Parlikov will develop a little bit about this system. What is to highlight here is that there are quotas. Quotas of capacities for each of these systems, because we have a problem. We have a problem with the power system. Here's the problem actually has two limits. The power system has actually two limits. One limit is the network capacity itself, but this limit is not exactly a problem in Republic of Moldova, because according to the estimations, the calculations made by Moldelectrica as a transmission system operator, this limit is about 2,000 gigawatt. 2,000 megawatt, 2 gigawatt, so very big. The other limit is actually annoying us, and this is a capacity for balancing the power system. In other words, who should produce electricity when the wind is not blowing or outside is dark? And here we have a problem, because there are actually not enough or not at all capacities in order to provide such kind of services. And here we have a chicken-egg problem, because on one hand, investors are looking for some price signals in order to make the decision to invest in balancing capacities, and on the other hand, there should be a balancing market according to EU regulations, and the balancing market without market participants cannot be. So we are in a vicious circle here. After long discussions with Energy Committee Secretariat, they accepted a solution to have at least capacities, to pay for capacities for such investors in a certain manner, so with some stability of these capacity payments for several years in order to give some certainty regarding recovery of investments, but and there will be some tenders in this respect, but things are moving slowly. Coming back to interconnections, yes, in electricity interconnections, there are some interconnections already scheduled, new interconnections already scheduled, and here there are Suceava-Bălți, high voltage power lines, there is Gutinaș-Strășeni, another power line. What I wanted to highlight here is that these interconnections actually means collaboration between two countries, between two TSOs, one here in Republic of Moldova and the other in Romania. And if we are looking to the 10-year network development plan of Transelectrica, we see that deadlines for these power lines do not match actually the hurry and the commitment to finalize these power lines as quick as possible, which is in Republic of Moldova. So probably political discussions and not only discussions between TSOs should be accelerated here also. What else? Regarding centralized markets, because they are highly needed in an environment with a lot of renewables. And as you know, Republic of Moldova wants to switch from this system of payments to eligible renewable producers through the central electricity supplier to a system of contract for differences. So there is a need for centralized markets. Here we are also advanced with Opcom, the NIMO from Romania. Also advances are on gas because we have BRM gas market operator from Romania, which is establishing not only a market for contracts for gas in Republic of Moldova, but also a market for a day-ahead market for gas, which also will be soon launched. Well, yes. Also, I noted to highlight the institutional development. I already told you about CNED, the National Center for Sustainable Energy. An important mention should be made also to Ministry of Energy, because since more than 1 year ago, we have the Ministry for Energy, and I think the results are very clear for everybody here. Since we have this ministry, actually, also things in energy sector moved faster than in the past. So, in short, in my humble opinion, Moldova is on the right track with clear achievements in recent years. There is a lot of work ahead, one being this related to promotion of renewable energy sources. Yeah, so in short, this was my introductory speech. Thank you. Now I will, according to our schedule, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Yolanda Garcia Mesquita, head of unit from DG Energy, which is actually supervising energy sector of Republic of Moldova, for her assessment of where we stand and what we should do in the future. Thank you. Yolanda, please.
Thank you very much. Hope you can hear me and see me. Thank you, Mr. Sandulescu, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to participate in this relevant event. I want to start to congratulate Moldova on the opening accession negotiation and for the first intergovernmental accession conference that took place this year, the 25th of June. This is an important moment in a longer path of reforms and integration, but as Mr. Sandulescu said, you are in the right direction. In the energy sector, the EU and Moldova have been working together for years, working in the fully integration into our internal electricity market. This work has been done under the Energy Community Framework, and this has been endorsed by the Ministerial Council in 2022 to adopt what is called the Electricity Integration Package. With the implementation of this electricity integration package, it will bring Moldova into the full access to the EU electricity market. This will be very important because it will mean to trade electricity as an EU country. And just to mention some of the benefits of the market coupling with the EU that will bring to Moldova, I want to highlight in particular energy security. This is extremely important, and Mr. Sandulescu already mentioned the impact of the energy crisis in Moldova. So to be integrated will increase the energy security and reduce the exposure to the price shocks. The second is it will facilitate the integration of the renewable energy into the system. It will facilitate the decarbonization of the energy system of Moldova and, of course, facilitate the integration into the system. Third, it will bring important long-term signals for investors in power generation, in grids, in storage and flexibility, and, of course, in renewables. Of course, to be part of the EU market will bring more flexibility and liquidity in the trade of the electricity. It will increase competition and reduce market manipulation, and will, at the end of the day, offer affordability for consumers, means lower bills or for consumers, for households, but also as well for enterprises. So bring more benefits in terms of competitiveness of the Moldovan economy. Of course, the market coupling will bring more optimization in the interconnectors, as Mr. Sandulescu mentioned, for Moldova. So I want to highlight that all the steps that you are doing are part of this momentum for enlargement. So the steps that you are giving are steps into the direction of to be part of the full European market, but also to be full members of the European Union sooner or later in this long pathway. I want to highlight that the Commission has supported Moldova in the last years. In particular, our Commissioner of Energy, Mrs. Simpson, traveled to Chișinău last February, and together with the Moldovan authorities agree on joint roadmaps, identify what are the pieces of legislation that they are really relevant in order to advance, to facilitate the reforms in the markets. In particular, further reforms in the electricity sector, further reforms as well in the gas market, and facilitate the liberalization of the gas market, and of course as well the deployment of energy and to facilitate the integration of energy, renewable energy into the system, including increased energy efficiency, which is an extremely important as well in Moldova. So these roadmaps are a blueprint for the ambitious reform track which Moldova will pursue in order to integrate, to be fully integrated in the EU energy market. We see the determination and the commitment of Ukraine, and we are here to support Ukraine in this path. I want in particular mention renewables, because here is the topic of today. I would like as well to commend Moldova's first ever auction for renewable energy sources, which was launched in spring. I was glad to participate in the launching ceremony, and now I'm looking forward to the results of this first auction that I'm sure it will bring more quite soon. We appreciate the speed and the determination with which Moldova moved from the transposition of the Renewable Directive, RED II, into national legislation to implement the law, basically to put in practice the provisions that they are in RED II. I think this is extremely important, and again, the Commission has been here to support you thanks to the EU for Energy project. I want to highlight as well the progress that you have done in the deployment of renewables. It's really an important progress that you have done. Today, you have around 26% of the electricity mix is coming from renewables compared to 13% in 2020. So we need to highlight the important progress that you have done in PV capacity, but also in wind capacity. So the country is moving into the right direction in order to decarbonize the system. At the international level, you have also joined in the COP28 the Global Renewables and Energy Efficiency Pledge. So at the international level, you are also supporting this movement towards more renewables and energy efficiency in the world. I want to highlight as well the National Energy and Climate Plan, because this is a blueprint for the 2030 targets. So you have prepared the draft plan, and now you will soon hopefully submit the final plan. It's extremely important because a robust and credible national and energy climate plan will stimulate the investments that the Moldovan energy sector needs for its transformation. You are developing the National Energy Climate Plan according to the governance rules, that they are exactly the same, the rules and the standards that we are developing in the European Union. It's an important document because it reflects how Moldova will efficiently drive the decarbonization of the country, boosting energy renewable and energy efficiency to fulfill the 2030 targets. It will serve as well to strengthen the integration into the internal energy market, enhance energy security, and accelerate innovation and clean technologies. So we really look forward to the final plan of the Moldova to be submitted to the Energy Community Secretariat soon. I want to highlight before we go to the end my participation, interconnectivity. Mrs. Andulescu mentioned how important it is to have interconnection in the country. We boost the conclusion or accelerate the other two lines that they are ongoing, as Mr. Sandulescu mentioned, the Bucharest-Chișinău 400 kilovolts interconnection to strengthen the Moldovan electricity. This is a top priority, and we are putting all our efforts, in particular to highlight this. As Mr. Sandulescu mentioned, it's important to cooperate. So it means it's Moldova, but it's also the EU country. So we need to speed as well and to push Romania as well to facilitate the conclusion of this line as well, but Balti-Suceava. So I think this is too important interconnection. I want to highlight that this is part of what is called CESEC Action Plan, and CESEC is our platform for energy connectivity in Eastern and Southeastern Europe. The action plan is focused on renewables, electricity, gases. It contains important elements will help to boost Moldova's interconnectivity with the region, contributing to the market competition of Moldova, but also in the region, enhance the security and sustainability of the transition. I want to finalize, to conclude, just to encourage Moldova to accelerate the implementation of the electricity package in order to ensure that all the benefits that I mentioned could materialize as soon as possible. And this will help as well the decarbonization of the energy system in Moldova with the deployment and integration of the renewables embedded in a robust national and energy climate plan, because definitely this will boost the competitiveness of Moldova, the sustainability of the country, and the energy security. This will bring, without any doubt, tangible benefits for the Moldovan citizens and enterprises. It's an important step towards the accession to the European Union, the integration into the energy single market. You can count with the full support of the EU in this journey. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jolanta. Now, allow me to give the floor to Minister Victor Parlikov for his view, his assessment of where we are and which are the next steps in what concerns promotion of renewables. Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Those of you who have been with us in the morning heard about I mentioned about the security dimension and how the energy security dimension is becoming an enabler for overall development of the country, not just on the energy, but in general economic and social development of the country. Since this panel focuses more on the green side of things, on the green transition, on the renewable energy, on the sustainability, I would like to also start a little bit further than just the issue of green energy and the auctions that we've started. I will mention about that, but I would also like to leave some time for us to discuss, for questions. I would start with the fact that for Moldova, the green transition and circular economy is not let's say, vogue. It's not because the EU imposes us to do so. It is a vital necessity. It is the only thing that can keep our economy competitive. We do not have any or most of the resources that it takes to ensure development of the economic development. We don't have fossil fuels, we don't have any rare earths, we don't have many of the things. That's why it is extremely important to start using wisely whatever we have. It is extremely important to start, and it's not just about the renewable energy, it's not about energy, not just about energy. It is about the overall pool of resources that we have as a country and that we can put to better use. We talk about recycling. We talk about making best use of whatever we bring into our country as imported, I don't know, packaging material, etc., because we don't have our own, I don't know, aluminium. We don't have our own metal. We don't produce our own anything. Most of it we bring, and it's extremely important how we use it and how we wisely dispose of it. Secondly, if we go more into the energy sector, again, it's not an option. The green energy and the green transition is not an option, is the only thing that we can do. If you look around, while we're integrating into the European energy market, and I said it before, I know all the challenges. I know the challenges related to the synchronizing the 10 years network development plans between Moldova and Romania. We will be ready with our lines. We have the ambition to be ready with our lines by 2029. Romania is still keeping it in plans a bit further in the horizon. I'm sure we can work that out. What is important to understand that strategically, when we integrate as a country in a bigger market, there is nothing else that we can bring to the table in a competitive way than renewables. There is simply nothing else. We don't have gas, we don't have oil, we don't have coal, we don't have hydro, we don't have nuclear. Okay, so guess what? What is our competitive contribution to the bigger market? It is only the renewables. And in that respect, we have several advantages compared to other countries. On one side, particularly, and this is, as mentioned by Mr. Sandulescu, one of the scopes why we're why we're pushing and speeding up the construction of interconnections with Romania is because our limits to integrate renewables in our system is our consumption. And we as a country can produce, a dozen times, maybe more than that, the energy that we need had we had the consumption. But what the luxury that we have is that we can easily and relatively cheaply and quickly interconnect with much bigger markets where this energy can be demanded, and renewable projects in Moldova take shorter, are cheaper to build, and therefore are competitive. Yes, there is some issues related to the, not issues, but there's the issue related to the cost of financing, but we're dealing with it as well. I'll come, when I talk about the auctions, I'll mention about the importance of the political risk insurances that we've managed to negotiate with the DFC, with Development Finance Corporation in the US, that is actually going to issue, is ready to issue political risk insurance guarantees that would significantly reduce by at least 3 to 4 percentage points the cost of financing for renewable projects in the Republic of Moldova. And that means better prices. That means that ultimately, for us, green projects, renewable energy is not only going to become cheaper, it's going to become more popular. Because what I would like to see now from a ministerial position is when people see a new renewable energy project in Moldova, that they clap their hands and they're all happy and they're saying, what a wonderful thing that brings us security, guaranteed long-term cheap prices, and it's also green. What I don't want them to say is that, wow, again this green crap on my bill. This is going to kill me. Now the magic of it is the cost of financing. So coming back to the importance of renewables, it's not an option. The advantage of Moldova, apart from the strong interconnections that we're building, is also the robustness of our transmission grids. Allows us to implement policies to integrate more renewables. There's no problem with the grids for the renewables. Okay, there is in distribution, I know, but this is definitely not in the transmission, which is the difficult part, which is the thing that limits the ability, for instance, of much more developed countries to integrate, to electrify some of their transport, to electrify some of their heating. We don't have that limits as yet. We're not in the foreseeable future going to hit these limits with our transmission grids. That means that we can relatively quickly make, leapfrog jumps in terms of electrification of transport, in terms of electrification of heating. The reason is because, unlike many other things, this type of consumption in electricity is relatively flexible consumption, is a relatively dispatchable consumption. As a country, we don't have a lot to add to the energy mix of Europe than renewables. That's why it's extremely important to balance the grid, to balance the consumption with the consumption the generation that we could put on the grid. And in this respect, electric transport, the electric car, which anyway 90% of the time is staying idle, if it stays idle connected to the grid, it becomes a battery on wheels. It's more than just a car. It's something that can consume when the energy is abundant and cheap, and something that can power your house when the energy is scarce and expensive. The same with the heating. If you have heat buffers, if you have heat collectors, then you can activate the consumption of energy and pump and heat the heating agent when there is cheaper energy, cheaper electricity, and you can use it when there's more expensive electricity. This would allow us to integrate much more renewables and to make much better use of the grids that we have and of the infrastructure that we are already paying anyway for. Now, all these elements would not be possible and are not possible without functional markets. Because there's not going to be cars as batteries on wheels if your prices are flat. There's not going to be any incentives for consumers to adjust their behavior if the prices are flat. That's why functional energy markets are not again a vogue. It's not again because the European Union wants us to, create a market operator and they will tick out some mandatory, some conditionalities on their list. This is a vital necessity for our system to be able to work, to integrate more renewables, and to be ultimately more competitive than others. Another advantage which I always mention in this context, that Moldova is, in addition to being a very open energy system, particularly on the electricity. We're going to be probably, when we finish all the interconnections with Romania, we're probably going to be one of the most open energy transmission systems on the continent. Probably the interconnection capacity will be about 6 to 8 times higher than our peak consumption, which means that we can serve both as a bridge for energy to power the restoration of Ukraine when it's needed, and we can serve as almost unlimited pool for shifting renewable energy back and forth. Now, one other thing that this interconnections do, and I was talking about the markets, is again. I lost the thought, sorry. That was an important element of the thought that I missed. But anyway, the idea is that the efforts that we do in terms of the creation of functional markets is a necessity to bring us to the level, the advantage of Moldova compared to other countries in making this future come about is that Moldova is a very small country, a very dynamic country, a country in which the distance between the business, which you are here all representing, and the government is very short, which means that projects and initiatives that in many places take longer, in our case are possible to do faster. We are putting in place a dedicated framework, a dedicated legislative and regulatory framework for what we call innovation sandboxes. This is particular for innovative solutions. That is particular for things that are still to come about. We want to become the country where innovative solutions are faster to be developed and hit the market than in other places. We have the potential for it, both in terms of the type of the country, the structure of the country, the way we function as government, but also from the point of view of capacity of the local workforce. We do have competent children. Unfortunately, they're missing, they're lacking challenges up to their capacities here. and they prefer, a lot of them prefer to leave, and they're becoming very successful in many other places. My dream is to give them all a possibility to get their future here and to get them the challenges that would keep them interested here. And that would not be possible without the cooperation between the universities, education, and the business. That's why, please welcome, please consider Moldova. Now we are again on the radar as a more secure place from the energy point of view. So now is the time for development, for innovation, and we're all the way supportive to the initiatives that can come from the private sector to make, to build a country that would serve as an example to many others in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Now I will give the floor to Mr. Peter Stor from Premier Energy. Premier Energy being the biggest private investor here in Republic of Moldova, at least in what concerns energy, and with a high potential of investments, not only in what concerns renewables, but also in balancing, as far as I know. And the kind request to Peter is to tell us a little bit about the challenges they are facing in what concerns the future investments here. Thank you.
Thank you, and maybe just a bit of a background. Premier Energy, we're a company traded on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. We did an IPO earlier this spring. We have over 15,000 individual investors, most of them are Romanian or Moldovan investors. And if I combine all the pension funds, we probably, the investor base is actually in the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions. The business here, and as we think about the group, about a third of the group, the revenue and EBITDA comes from the Republic of Moldova. So in many ways, as we were talking to investors around the world, because we did a 144A offering, which we spoke to investors from the US, from other parts of Western Europe, even the Middle East. We have a sovereign wealth fund from the Middle East who's an investor. So as we're talking globally about the people, it was very interesting because for most of them, it was the first time that they really considered an investment into Moldova. And that's not to take anything away from our peers at Purcari, which is also very successful. And but Purcari has a lot of their sales outside of Moldova. We have a lot of our sales here in Moldova, and it was very interesting because a lot of the investors, they sort of found out about Moldova and all of the positive developments that are happening here, the integration that the minister mentioned. They hear that and it gets them excited. So for us, it's also very important as we think about renewables. We are a business here in the Republic of Moldova where we provide electricity, both on the distribution and on the supply, to about 75% of the people, including the city of Chișinău, including this building and in this room. So this electricity that you're seeing is being distributed and supplied by our company. And so as we think about renewables, it's really part of the bigger scheme, okay? We're not going to be able to provide all the capital for the interconnections and those kinds of things. That's above kind of our capabilities, to be honest. But we are able to provide, increased capacity to enable renewables. We are able to provide generation. In the past year, we've brought 15 megawatts of solar online. We have another 15 megawatts that will be operational by the end of this year. We're doing wind studies as we speak on some potential wind power. And yeah, we have a balancing plant, could be, and what we hope to soon be, a very modern gas-to-power plant to enable balancing. Because we can talk all we want about renewables, but if you can't balance it, you're not going to have a market that the people will be happy with, because it's going to increase their costs. So what we do, and you can see it in our tariffs, is to make sure we deliver an efficient cost to the end consumer, to make sure that the electricity price that the Moldovan people are paying is some of the smallest in all of Europe. And I think we can achieve that with investments in renewables, but it needs to be part of a broader scheme. And so, you know, that's where we really come in, is to think about it more broadly. And, you know, we have invested, if you think about the distribution network that we operate here in Moldova, we've invested over 360 million euros into that network over the past 20 plus years. Every year it's about 15 to 20 million euros to make sure that the network is efficient. It makes sure that the network provides good customer service, meaning if the power lines are down because there's too much rain and a tree fell on one of the power lines, we replace it right away. It also means we have very little in terms of energy losses. So when you look at some of the key KPIs of this distribution network, it is on par with Western standards. It is very much on par with what you'll see in Romania, in other parts of Central and Eastern Europe. So that's really important to consider, because that, again, is the whole package that I wanted to make sure that, you know, comes across. And we are very much looking forward to seeing the renewable tenders and other sort of support schemes that will be available to grow the market and to really, at the end of the day, create more efficiency in the system, bring costs down, and have more of a sustainable future on the electricity, on the energy side. So that's what we have to say as a private investor.
Thank you, Peter. And now we have another potential investor here. And I have the pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Charles Licher-Mittes from Quer International, please.
It's okay? Okay. First of all, thanks a lot to invite me. It is very, very nice. Perhaps a few words to introduce my company, CARE. CARE is an IPP, fully integrated. We are actually in 22 countries, in Brazil, in Africa, and the most important for us, Europe. We are actually in the most part of the huge market in Europe, Germany, Poland, where we are one of the main providers of green energy, Italy, Spain, and since a few weeks in UK, due to an acquisition, we purchased 10 gigawatt hours of pipe of BESS standalone. We decided to come in Moldova 3 years ago. It was just before the war in Ukraine, and we had this decision to take. Do we have to stay or not? And we decided to do the acquisition of a pipe previously owned by a Spanish company, Electra Norte. And with the strong support of Cedera and Marcella Lefter, we decided to stay on the country and to develop a pipe of wind projects and PV assets. The DNA of the company, it is to produce green energy, only green energy, electricity, green gases, H2, eSAF, e-methanol. So we try to use a part of the electricity produced to produce green gases for the car, for the trucks, for the boats, for example. The most important for us, it is to put in place a full ecosystem with the production, the grid, and the trading. It is what we did by the past in all the countries where we are. It is important also to do local partnerships because develop renewables, it is like a race. You need 5, 6, 7 years to develop, to obtain the building permit, to obtain the price for the electricity. And after that, it is the beginning of a new life, 25, 30 years before the decommissioning, before the dismantling. So I think it is really important at the early beginning to find the good partners for these 30 years of common life. Actually, I can confirm to you we have a strong experience for the emergent market. winning tenders and finance this type of projects, and especially with international institutions. We already finance a project with EBRD, with FMO, AFD, in Poland, Tunisia, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mauritius, Seychelles. It's not easy. We know all the constraints to respect the international standards, but it is exactly what we did in Moldova. Since the early beginning, we obtained the building permit, we secured the grid connection, and we try to do the environmental and social impact assessment with the high-level standards. I think we now have a clear view on the strategy in the country. We have 200 megawatts fully developed in 4 sites in the country, and we are very excited to participate to the tender in a few months. And thanks a lot to the Ministry of Energy and to the ANRE to organize this tender. We hope this tender will be the first of a long list because I want to speak about what is necessary to be successful. First of all, we are talking about large-scale projects, and it is absolutely necessary. You are talking about the fact all the people in Moldova are more concerned about the price of electricity. It is the primary focus. And if we want to be successful on that, and we have many discussions by the past about the selling price, and especially for the wind, we have to put in place large-scale projects. And this technology of turbine, this technology of PV projects needs to have a market of 500, 600, 700 megawatts in the country. That's why the roadmap of the country is really important. Because if we are talking with the main provider of turbine, the main provider of inverters, of auction of 60, 100 megawatts, for them, for sure, it's not enough. So, thanks a lot. You were talking last time about 600 megawatts of wind before 2030. I think it is this type of target who could attract, who could push our provider actually to come in Moldova with us.
Thank you, Charles. Now, before handing over to Mrs. Mariana Rufa for the second part of the presentations in this panel, I want to highlight something very important related to energy, and this is a support, EU support we benefited, because I mentioned previously the Energy Vulnerability Fund. The Energy Vulnerability Fund was financed with 240 million euros grant from EU in the last 3 winters. Okay, now we are facing another winter with a lot of uncertainties. But in the past, it was this very high support, financial support from you in order to be able to manage this payment risk for bills in energy. Also, it was very high support in what concerns from EU side, in what concerns the new legislation here in the Republic of Moldova, both directly and through Energy Committee Secretariat. In what concerns the legislation, it was also support to be mentioned provided by USAID through the MESA project. So all the achievements were made with external support actually. Now, Mariana, please.
Okay, it is. Dear audience, dear Mr. Stăndulescu, thank you so much for this exceptional panel moderation, co-moderation. I cannot get to the next panelist without really thanking Mr. Parlikov and his team actually for the whole dialogue process we had, the audience, in which we really worked extremely technically, very thoroughly on two important laws. We're speaking about the law on renewables, but also the law on electricity. And saying this, I should also thank, it would be fair to thank our EBA Sector Committee on Energy, Tatiana Gotishan, Jose Luis, Marcela Lefter, because, and many other members from EBA that were indeed extremely professionally involved in this process. I especially saying this for the purpose that today in the room we also have international investors that are thinking about coming to Moldova. And it is important to perceive the message correctly, even if we are on the way in order to finalize everything properly. It was always a dialogue in between. The fact that we have Mr. Parlikov today here, the fact that we have the European Commission, DG Energy connected, the fact that we do have investors that are planning to expand in Moldova, that's the message for further thinking about Moldova. So thank you once again, Mr. Stor, thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Lermit, that you have personally decided today to come here. And today, esteemed audience, we have two more new investors here. We have Mr. Mavraganis, a Strategic Planning and Sustainability Director, Copper Segment, Halcor, company member of the VO Halco, Hellenic Cable Group. I purposefully read in order not to mix something. And before we give the floor to Mr. Mavraganis, I would like our dearest technical team to place a video on the company. Thank you. In the Republic of Moldova, we have the Prime Minister Economic Council and the Working Group of Green Transition and Trade Facilitation. I personally have the great honor to moderate, and today in the room we have our beloved colleagues from the Prime Minister Economic Council today. We all speak about circular economy. We start now to learn about circular economy. You are the company that implement this in practice. How do you do this?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for having me here in your beautiful country. It's nice to get away from the overheat that's been happening in Greece for over the 2 months now and the fires and see some rain. It's a nice change. First of all, I'd like to just clarify a couple of things about the company and the group I work for, because probably my title misled you with all the names mentioned. Makes sense because I work as a director in the copper segment. I 7 companies. 7 companies are which part of a group of 85 companies under the Viohalco group, which is based in Brussels. And the Viohalco group, just to give you an idea, it's the biggest group of companies in the Balkans with a turnover of about 8.5 billion euros a year. About 12,000 employees all around Europe, especially in the Balkans, but also in the UK and Romania as well, cables, and many other countries. It's been around the group for almost 100 years now, and our primary function is the metals industry. We aim and strive to provide solutions with aluminium products, with products of copper, including the generation, transport, and storage of energy, with wires especially, and other products. Steel for the green buildings and buildings in general, the transfer of natural gas with large steel pipes, and last but no means least as well, real estate. We are also a big player of real estate as well in that domain. That's just a few words for the group. Elval Halkor in more detail, you see in the video. I tried to get the video of the Halkor group, but the marketing people told me it's under development, the latest one, and they would kill me if I show you a last year's one. So soon enough, there'll be a new one you will all be able to see in our Vio Halkor website, showing any interest party what the group is all about and all the companies, 85 of them, entail to it. There are companies that deal with energy, there are companies that deal with transport of energy, and there are a lot of companies that deal with products that enable a carbon-reduced economy model. And I want to stress that because really to answer your question, I think the biggest challenge that when someone is talking about sustainability and circular economy models, and I would rather use the term sustainability because circularity is part of it, is not just to use clean energy. To give you an idea, our function in a typical manufacturing plant, energy is only 20% of the carbon footprint. The rest is all suppliers. It goes all the way to the South America or the middle of Africa where products and raw materials come from. So we can be as energy efficient as we can be, build a nice wind farm next to our plants as we have done with photovoltaic panels, purchase directly from some suppliers green energy. Solar energy is green, but that's only 20% of the footprint. So if you want to talk about circular economy, you're only 20% of the target of the EU and the Green Deal that I'm sure you're all aware of. By 2030, companies, especially big companies like ours, all companies of our group, they have to meet the strict targets set by the EU, 55% reduction of carbon footprint, and by the year 2050, 0%. Well, I'm not going to be around then to see that, but it will be good, of course, if our company and all companies achieve that by then. But energy is only part of it. And the big challenge is the supply chain. It's about getting the right raw materials and getting your suppliers to do also their part. Personally, I don't think that most companies in Europe have realized really the big challenges that lie ahead for them and the governments when it comes to that respect of being fully compliant with European legislation. The European Green Deal was introduced only a few years ago. I think in a couple of years, companies and nations will start panicking in that respect. I think Moldova, from what I have read before coming here and from what I have heard from esteemed colleagues who talked today, especially on this panel, is on the right track. And well done for that. I think for smaller companies, for smaller countries in size, it's going to be an easier transition to circular economy models and to adapt to that than bigger countries that carry a much heavier weight of having to deliver far more energy requirements and being far more dependent on fossil fuels, for example. So I think Moldova has a great opportunity here to stand out as a good example of this transition and also enable, very many ways, the circular economy models. For example, in our industry, metals, primary metals, secondary metals are primary importance as well as green energy, of course. And all these are areas and of course, real estate, as I mentioned, that we would be interested at. So I think there is a lot of potential here that has to be further analyzed and discussed. And also to get back again to your original question, circularity is something that doesn't happen overnight. We were lucky to foresee as a group many years ago, before the Green Deal, that we have to change our traditional products like the copper tubes. Copper tubes were used for many, many years in buildings for heating water. You go to England and you go to the old Victorian houses and they have copper tubes that are still working. Over 100 years old, amazing. And this was one of our traditional products, if you like, and the very first product of the group. But things are changing now. Huh? We're talking about green buildings. We're talking about legislation that's coming in and is in for green buildings and for energy efficiency buildings. So what does that mean? You cannot just go out and buy a copper tube that has a carbon footprint of 5 or 7 or 10 tons of CO2 per ton of product, because you're just not going to be able to declare yourself having a green building. So there are two opportunities here. You either go and buy something else, and there's something else, the plastic one is even worse, or the producer of copper tubes tries to reduce the carbon footprint by doing what we call a very rigid and detailed circular economy model. And to give you an example, and I picked up copper tubes for that, you have to push your suppliers all the way from the mines and the primary metal production, that is the metals being extracted from the earth. And you know, we use millions of tons of copper now for mobiles, for electric cars, for all sorts of applications, for the energy grids, far more than before, which means that we have to dig deeper and deeper now. And the further you go down the earth, the more footprint you generate, because the more energy you need. So companies that are in this extraction business, they have to adapt. We have to apply the pressure on them to use green energy themselves, to use technologies all the way to the mines to produce and use green energy. It's a transition that's taking time. I'm positive that this will happen inevitably because of the pressure, especially that European law and other legislations are applying, and obviously because of the climate change situation we're living. But also companies have to look at alternatives to that, i.e. secondary materials, the so-called scrap. The more scrap you used, i.e. materials and metals that have already been used, they don't have a footprint. They don't have a footprint because they have already been used. They have already been extracted and used over and over and over. So for a circular model, the focus has to be on the scrap, on the secondary materials, on the reuse of water as well. I don't want to put the water out of the equation because we talk about energy, but believe me, you go down, about 1,000 miles down towards the south of Europe, and everybody there is talking about water. There are even quotas in houses in regions in Greece and Italy and Spain where you're only allowed X amount of hours a day to use water because it's becoming more and more less available than before. So I'm sure it's not the case here from what I've seen the last couple of days. Not yet though. Things are changing rapidly. So when you look at the circularity economy models, you have to take that into account. In other words, to answer your question, close up my answer, circular economy model is not just about energy and get green energy, either net metering, produce it yourself, or buy it directly from renewable energy producers. It's also about exerting the pressure down your supply chain to make sure that they do the right actions to reduce their carbon footprint. I have to stress that for many products, manufacturing products, these account for over 80% of the total footprint, what your suppliers do. So no matter how much green energy you use, you've got 80% of the problem elsewhere. Bear that in mind. Big challenge. Takes years to overcome. But also a company has to invest in new products that will enable this carbon transition and reduced carbon model of economy globally and in Europe. So the copper pipes, they have to be replaced by copper pipes that have a far less reduced carbon footprint, have a different content of usage of secondary material and different suppliers that also have a reduced carbon footprint. All these mean cost. Make no mistake, everything I'm talking about here is more expensive. You're talking about an overhead of about 25 to 30% now for everything that the company wants to do it right. If a company wants to do it right and say, I'm going to be compliant with the European law today, they have to spend 40% more on their supplies in general, 40, 50%. How can they do that? How can they be competitive? You must be mad to do that. The only good news is that not only a company and its suppliers have to comply, but the customers of a company like ours have to comply as well. So it goes all the way from the cradle to the end producer, that they will have to absorb that cost. So I think we have to be positive. I think there are opportunities to be harnessed, not only in the production of energy and the use of secondary materials. outlets, suppliers, reuse of water, but also by making products that will enable that transition, by making products and materials that will enable the production of green energy, that will enable the energy efficiency projects and energy efficiency technologies that inevitably will lead to a far carbon-reduced model of economy.
Mr. Mavroganis, thank you for very valuable messages. And indeed, it's not about being scared or somehow to be afraid of certain things. It's about being ready for these initiatives, for these costs, for these policies on the government side, but also on the private sector side, because indeed the issue of water, the issue of natural resources will affect all of us at a certain stage, not only Spain, Greece, but also it's coming here, and the weather today is also an example of that. So it's just about being ready. However, congratulations for the achievements that you've managed to achieve in your big holding of companies, and by doing this, you have also managed to educate your customers and your suppliers, which is a big thing. Thank you so much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to the last speaker of today, but not least important. And in this regard, allow me to also thank our DigiNear colleagues who have helped us, dear Sandrine, Gerald, Diana. Thank you so much for helping us in facilitating and bringing these precious and valuable speakers today. Mr. Fabio Parola, Policy Advisor, International and European Affairs, A2A, Italian company that is also very successful in implementing circular economy and sustainable economy principles. Mr. Parola, please share with us some of the examples and what we can learn with you, but not before placing the video. So our esteemed colleagues.
Life is a circle. We're a life company. We place life at the center of everything we do, for us and for future generations. We develop technology and infrastructure to serve people and preserve nature, working every day to regenerate the resources we use. Life is a circle. We advocate for renewable energy sources, and we accelerate decarbonization by fostering electrification. We build a virtuous cycle to reuse water without wasting it. We convert every scrap into resources, new materials, energy, and heat. Life is a circle. Our vision looks far ahead into the future, a future we're building today by acting consciously, because a sky blue life is possible. A2A, Life Company.
So, Mr. Fabio Parola, the floor is yours. Very nice video.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. As you saw from the video, A2A is a particular company. It's a multi-utility, we call. So it's a company that provides a lot of different services, both on the environmental side, so waste management, water distribution, wastewater treatment, and on the energy side. We are producers, distributors, and suppliers of electricity and gases. So save from school, hospitals, and funeral services, we have you pretty much covered on all other sides. And this is why we try to define ourselves as a life company, because most of these services and infrastructures that we provide are really part of people's everyday lives in the territories where we operate. Allow me to spend just a minute to explain about the structure of our company, and then I was invited to speak about how we plan and develop infrastructures and services that support each other in a sustainable way. I wanted to give you briefly two examples. I know I'm the last man standing between you and hopefully an aperitif, so Mariana, you can kick me if I run long, but no, so the company has grown significantly. Last year we got a turnover of 14 billion euros, and we have a particular structure in the sense that we are traded on the stock exchange in Milan, so we have international investors as our shareholders, but the majority of our shares are owned by two cities, the city of Milan and Brescia, both in northern Italy. So we have, let's say, an international outlook, but we're also very much rooted in some specific territories where we've been operating for several decades now. And the first example that I wanted to share with you today relates to one of our two public shareholders, so the city of Brescia. We've been active there for quite some time now, and we've achieved very good results in terms, for example, of waste management. So we have a rate of separate collection of waste that is above 80%. And of the waste that we collect, we manage to recycle 3/4 of it, so 75% is recycled. And the question remains as to the 25% of waste that cannot be recycled. So what to do with it? We said to ourselves, well, landfilling is a no-go. We want to get rid of landfills in Italy, and we've decided now, back in the 1980s, to treat this non-recyclable residual fraction of waste through a waste-to-energy plant that we have in Brescia. It's one of the largest in Europe, actually. It is capable of treating 700,000 tons of waste every year. And how does the plant treat this waste? It is incinerated to remove pollutants, but by incinerating the waste, we also produce electricity and heat. Electricity is then distributed and dispatched through the grid, of course, whereas heat is not dispersed in the atmosphere, but is connected to a district heating network. So it's a network of water pipes that runs all throughout the city and covers now almost 90% of the households in the city. Brescia, just to give you an example, Brescia has around 300,000 inhabitants, so it's a mid-sized town for Italy. So we create this synergy between the waste-to-energy plant and waste management cycle and the district heating network that has allowed us to achieve very, very good results. Just to give you an example, last year, 88% of the houses in the city were able to heat themselves without the need of using fossil fuel boilers or oil boilers. So there is a substitution effect from boilers towards district heating that allows us to increase efficiency and reduce emissions. We estimated a yearly reduction, so a yearly saving of emissions worth almost 1 million tons of CO2. A very significant also benefit in terms of climate change mitigation. So this is one of the examples that we are most proud of in terms of building infrastructures that really sustain and operate in synergy between each other in a sustainable way. So it's a win-win both for us in terms of operations, but also for the citizens in the territories that we operate in. And the second example is how we are trying to bring this approach also towards the future. Last year, we approved an industrial plan, a 12-year industrial plan to 2035, that is worth 22 billion euros of investments. 16 billion will go towards energy transition investments, so renewables, electric vehicles, energy efficiency measures, and 6 billion euros will go towards circular economy measures and projects. And we are basically structuring our plan around what we consider to be future-fit activities. So activities that are in line both with the targets and policy goals that the European Union has set, but also with what we believe are broad market trends. As the Minister correctly said, when we talk about green objectives and sustainability, it's not only, say, a marketing discourse, but it's really something that we believe is in perfect tune with the future trends that we will see in the energy sector, in the transportation sector, in the housing sector. So this is how we are trying to really bring the synergies that we've built in the past into also the future, looking at building infrastructures that will stand the test of time, that will hopefully improve over time. And this industrial plan, we are happy to say that it's not just a nice speech or a nice set of PowerPoint slides, but it's really something that is becoming reality pretty quickly. To give you a number, of all the projects that we have scheduled for completion by 2030, 70% of them are already being built. They're already underway. So we're really putting money on the table to achieve our goals. So to conclude, what can our experience maybe bring to the discussion of today's conference? We've certainly been mostly active in Italy. We have established partnerships also in other countries, in Spain, in the UK, in the Western Balkans, mostly regarding waste management activities. But we've seen that challenges and fundamentals are the same, both in Italy, in the EU, and outside of the EU. It's a very basic set of principles that we believe are necessary for private investors to operate. And first of all, of course, it's a rule of law and enforceability of contracts, which is never a given, not even in Italy, where we've been present for almost a century now. But it's really the 101 of any business relationship and transaction. Second, it's certainly very useful also to have a clear legislative framework that is as forward-looking as possible, so that we as private operators, we can anchor our projects and our investments towards an horizon that is not the one of tomorrow or next year, but it's really something that allows us to plan and build and carry out investments and projects that will give a return in the long term. And on this note, I would say that Moldova is very lucky to have a Minister of Energy that is so knowledgeable and has such a clear vision of the future of the energy system for the country, that it certainly will provide all the right messages and indications for any private investor in the sector. And finally, also what was mentioned by George before, since we provide a kind of services that are part really of people's everyday lives, we believe also it's very important to get as much buy-in as possible from citizens. So we are aware that we sometimes ask an effort to the citizens that we serve, for example, in terms of being more careful in separating their waste, plastic bottles from glass bottles, and so it's certainly an effort that they needed, that we ask them to make. But we need to show them that this effort will be rewarded by providing them better infrastructures, a cleaner city, cheaper electricity, cheaper heating. So there needs to be an understanding between private operators, public authorities, and the citizens that there's an effort required on each of us, but if we cooperate and play together for the long run, we will be able to really build cities of the future and provide services that will, as I said, stand the test of time and hopefully improve over time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I will dare to stand up, first of all, to thank our beloved panelists today. I know that it was an effort for most of you to join us for today's panel. You have traveled from abroad, you have had long trips, remarkable weather. However, using this absolutely remarkable opportunity to have 4 investors here in the room of such an important level in such a strategic sector, allow us to give just at least 1, 2, 3 questions from the audience. Beloved audience, if you would like to ask some questions to our distinguished speakers. Yes.
Hello. Is it on? Yeah. My name is Eugen Kansky. I'm here on behalf of Business Class, Moldova's leading business magazine. I'm really interested in energy efficiency solutions for the residential sector, which can be successfully implemented in Moldova. For example, last Friday, I've been to a real estate developer in Dorlești, which is a suburb of Moldova, and I was surprised and impressed that the luxury complex that they are building, it is going to be put in operation in 2026. They are pre-wiring every apartment with heat pumps so that heating pumps can be installed, and they also have dedicated areas for electric vehicles outside the apartment. I'm just wondering, to get your perspective, what efficient energy solutions can be implemented in Moldova in the real estate? Thank you.
I'm just going to make a comment because you mentioned heat pumps. It's interesting because European Union tried to pass a law very recently on the use of heat pumps and the abolition of boilers, the old boiler technology that has been used since the 1800s. interestingly enough, because the cost of heat pumps is quite significant, and the risk for owners, private owners, you know, to have a system such as that might fail in a few years and therefore double the cost is significant. As far as I know, and I know that, there were a lot of protests in Europe, especially in Germany, of people out on the streets objecting that law, and pretty much the result has been to postpone it all for another 5 years. So I wanted to say that even the people, to some extent, are not ready for that transition. Of course, your question is about Moldova, but I wanted to give you the broader perspective, because it's all about cost too at the end of the day. And no matter what we do, unless the cost of living improves, the energy costs for a household includes, even the people themselves are not ready to pay the price, if you like.
Can I, just to add, as you know, a new directive has been approved at the European Union level last year about energy performance of buildings. We ran a study about how to reach the targets of the new directive in the city of Milan. And we compared different solutions for energy efficiency in the residential sector. And we've found that basically achieving the directive's targets by only using heat pumps would cost us around 12 billion euros. Passive energy efficiency measures like building insulation outside of buildings would cost 6 billion, roughly. And district heating, connection to district heating would cost 3 billion euros. So we really believe that in terms of improving energy efficiency in the residential sector, Maib Park is a solid...
It's a small one. We don't even wake up from this.
It is not recommended to get out now.
Fabio, thank you for answering part of my next question. And I'll try to link the question actually with the previous session, which was on access to capital markets, particularly for domestic firms. But the question will be to His Excellency Viktor Parlikov. And the question is the following. Are there any plans to put in place not mandating policies, as Mr. Mavraganis has spelled out about Germany, but enabling and promoting policies to achieve the following: passive building design, energy audits of the buildings, then more responsible consumer behavior through time of use energy tariffs, meaning differentiated tariffs, and why this is relevant to the previous panel. In Moldova, we have great companies which manufacture smart meters that are used pretty much all over the world, unfortunately not used in Moldova. That is ADD Studio. Another company who manufactures particularly heat pumps that are used above the polar circle, who produce 80 degrees water, 80 centigrades. So the market of these companies is overwhelmingly export market. But because of the enabling policies here and the systemic failure of all governments to put those policies in place, not mandatory, but enabling. It's a different policy approach. providing positive incentives to consumers to install smart meters, to have an energy audit, to have smart, passive building design, policies of that sort. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much. Well, one missing part of what I was discussing, but I mentioned it in the morning, in the morning session, was the energy efficiency part. We cannot talk about the green transition without the energy efficiency. Like it's, as they say, the cheapest and the greenest energy you can get is the energy you don't need. Now, what is the root cause of many of the things that you have mentioned and what we're doing about it? One of the root causes for this is, simply speaking, low energy prices. Moldova, because there is no bigger enabler for any investments in energy efficiency than the price of energy. If you look what happened with the boom in the investment with, for instance, consumption or substituting the electricity consumption from the grid with own generation. Or if you look at the boom in the investments with the heat pumps, not the boom, but at least the beginning of the heat pumps installation in Moldova. Or when we talk about the major investments that started to flow into the insulation of the buildings in the residential sector, primarily, that only enabler was extremely high prices in the winter, particularly during the winter 2022-23, particularly 22-23 and 23-24. These were the main, 21-22, 22-23. So this war in Moldova, unfortunately, or fortunately, fortunately for the economy, we had the possibility for a long time to enjoy relatively low energy prices. Moreover, we have been subsidizing energy prices fiscally through fiscal incentives. We have still zero VAT tax applied to electricity used by households. We still have 0% VAT applied to heat energy, thermal energy for households. We still have 8% VAT applied to all gas as compared to a standard 20% VAT rate. Now, I'm not saying there's no reason for that, but this is impacting a lot. Two things. First, feasibility of any investments in energy efficiency. Even though most of the consumers don't do very meticulous calculations with their, energy bills and how return on investment on the investments they do in the energy efficiency, etc. It's a feeling, it's an overall feeling that they have, including while they talk to people who do similar things. Okay, so you invested, I don't know, 10,000 euro, you saved during your winter 600 euro, it would take 15 years until you pay back your investments. Maybe I should wait with my investment. You are richer, you had the money, I don't want to get into that. So one enabler is the price. And particularly when it comes to fiscal incentives, here is where the government has a lot of lead. But of course, politically, for any government, it is extremely difficult to tax energy in a country like Moldova. And here I want to go a little bit further. I will maybe slightly let's say, deviate from the main topic of today's session. But I won't need to mention about the importance of public perception and public acceptance of public policies. Because the only thing politicians can do is where the demand for it is there in the public, from the public. The politicians take it is extremely difficult for politicians to make decisions on things that are not accepted by the larger public. And in Moldova, unfortunately, we were for 30 years bombarded with the messages from propaganda that the most important thing on earth is your gas price, and the cheap gas can only come from one source, and the cheap gas is your salvation. And unfortunately, much more developed countries than Moldova fell prey of such narratives. And it took a crisis in 2021 for the entire Europe, for the entire European Union to wake up and to discover that suddenly that there is life after Russian gas. For Moldova, it is even more difficult to build the public acceptance for policies which otherwise are extremely rational and logic. Because higher taxation on energy doesn't only mean better feasibility of energy efficiency investments. It also means a budgetary envelope which can allow the government to both direct the money and the support that comes, the money that comes from these taxes to the ones who really need it, who is the poorest ones, and to direct part of the money into the energy efficiency investments. How can the energy efficiency investments be fueled or be, stimulated if we are discouraging if we're reducing their feasibility through taxes and we don't provide the budgetary envelope to incentivize them? And yes, this is not the only thing. I can go talk about, for instance, the financial products that we have on the markets for financing the energy efficiency investments. The banks and the banking sector and even the National Bank are looking at loans related to such investments more or less as consumer loans, which is not fair. Which is not fair. Fundamentally, this should be treated as more or less as mortgage, because it capitalizes the building, it's there, it doesn't go anywhere, it extends the lifetime of the building, it reduces the OPEX related to the building, but unfortunately there are very little or close to none, if not, for instance, money coming through separate programs like EBRD lines. There is close to none financial products that the banks inside the country, and there's, again, we can elaborate on that, on long money in the economy and many other things, but fundamentally, any energy efficiency investment pays back eventually, simply because if you have the right combination of your cost of financing, your energy price, and the right type of investment, it pays back by the very thing that it is saving you money. Now, there are no or very limited financial instruments to finance such transition. If, as a user, I can invest in my in my residence, capitalize it, increase its value, reduce the cost of energy consumed to the level that it allows me to, it saves me more money that I have to pay on the loan, then it's a rational decision to do. But there are no such products. You cannot pay back such investments in 5 years. You cannot pay such investments in 3 years, which are the banking products available on the market. So there's many things that can be improved in that, but what we are now doing as a government, we're basically creating a market for it. And actually the most difficult part in creating this market is to create the public demand for it. That's the difficult part. Because when you go and talk to the building associations of owners of condominiums, creating functional condominiums that can be bankable, that can come with a bankable project, and which can manage such a project is hell. There is no such experience. You have to build it from scratch. We have the money put aside for subsidizing a 70% subsidy to energy efficiency in the buildings. Horizontal distribution of heat, insulation of the building, insulation of the roof. Lots of things that would save at least 50% of their bills. But it's extremely difficult to absorb. There's very, let's say, limited capacity of the condominiums to create this, bankable demand. So, of course, as I said, there's many challenges that we have to work through, but we are creating this market. We're basically, at this point, by offering a 70% subsidies, we want to trigger the market. Then we want the banks to learn that it actually pays back. There is some financing into this system coming from loans. Eventually, the banks will learn how to work with that. Eventually, they will calculate the risks better. Eventually, they'll be able to mitigate these risks, and the government will be able to reduce the proportion of subsidies, increase the, and switch to more sophisticated, more subtle incentives, such as guarantee fund for such loans, such as interest subsidy for such loans, etc., etc. But in order to do that, you have to first stir the demand. There is very limited demand that can absorb such investment at this point. We need to build it, and that's what we're doing now through the Residential Energy Efficiency Fund.
Mr. Minister, it's a very important message, and I'd like to reiterate that indeed the tragic war in Ukraine has very much boosted the demand primarily in the private sector for the investments in the renewables. A lot of factories, a lot of facilities in the private sector have already quickly adjusted to the new approach. They have found money for investments, and even if there are certain options for the SME sector in the Republic of Moldova through ODA, for example, which is the Organization for Entrepreneurial Development, there are small projects, funding projects. Unfortunately, the big businesses and the big production facilities have to either apply for credit lines with quite high interest rate, but this is what Mr. Parlikov was talking about. Probably we have to reach a level when the market will be created and more competition will appear also for financial products, and I'm sure we are almost there because the things happen very quickly. And maybe one more thing that Victor was saying before, Victor Borunsus, about asymmetric information. Indeed, we will have to inform. We will have to educate our public, as Mr. Mavroganis was saying earlier. We will have to educate our suppliers, and we will have to educate our customers. And that's also a part of the market, and I'm sure that also the private sector will invest more projects in education, because that's also important. Honorable audience, we are getting to the timeline, to the end of our event. However, I have an utmost pleasure to express my heartfelt gratitude to the panelists today, and please join me for supporting with a round of applauses Mr. Alexandru Sandulescu, EU High-Level Advisor on Energy in the Republic of Moldova, Ms. Iolanta Garcia Mesquita, DG Energy, European Commission, Mr. Victor Parlikov, Minister of Energy of the Republic of Moldova, the most open Minister of Energy in the region, Mr. Peter Stor, Premier Energy Romania. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Stor. Mr. Charles Lermit, CARE International. Thank you, Mr. Lermit. Thank you, Marcella, for all the support. Mr. George Mavrogani, Strategic Planning and Sustainability Director, COPA Segment, Halcor. Thank you so much to the colleagues from the European Commission. And Mr. Fabio Parola, Policy Advisor, International European Affairs, A2A. Esteemed audience, our event is over. However, please watch us and have a look what EBA is doing. We are doing great events. We are providing very concrete support and very active actions in terms of reform agenda. So keep in touch, watch us, and EBA is here to support. Thank you so much, and I kindly invite you for a group picture and my beloved colleagues to share a present with you.
And I need to say thank you to Mariana from behalf of the EBA board, Mariana, and the executive team for a great organized event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Thank you so much. Please join us for a picture. Carolina, Marcela, Donna, our president, Diana Levchenko, Prime Minister Economic Council. Please join us for a picture here.